Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the greatest entitled parent stories we read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled parents you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try to speak to anyone's manager for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And become an official member of the Re-Army today, and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. r/Entitled Parents. Entitled parent tries to take my school bag, ends up going to jail. Characters. We've got me. We've got entitled parent. We've got mates 1, 2, and 3. We've got the bystander and the train driver. Innocent kid didn't really do much, just listen to his mom. I go to a reasonably expensive school in my home city, not named for obvious reasons, and the uniform is pretty distinctive. To get to it, I usually get a train for around 20 minutes to and from, plus 15-minute walk to the train station. For most of this, I am accompanied by a few mates who live in the same general area. Looking at us, you wouldn't think much. 3 to 4 relatively skinny teenagers who go to a good school. However, out of the usual squad, 2 of them do self-defense and other martial arts. Both have done it for over 6 years and are relatively high up in skill levels. This was a couple of years back, so some of the details may be a bit rusty. Now on to the story. My mates and I were waiting at the train station after school one day and were talking about the usual things that we talk about: video games, school, and the like. We are the nerds of the school. We see the train rock up to the platform and we get on. For once, there are more than 10 empty seats, and my mates sit down in a set of 4 while I stand. We put our bags on the ground outside the way of the walkway and continue our conversation. A few minutes pass, and then the mother of a small kid, no more than about 5 or 6, comes onto the train. By this point, most of the other seats were filled up, so my mates offered to move for them and she accepted. We picked up our bags and moved down the carriage a bit to an open area where we could stand without disrupting anyone. 2 stations later, the mother gets up, leaving her kid still sitting down, and starts asking us questions about our school. How is your school? I hear that it is very good and gets consistently high results. Mate 1. It is very nice, thank you. We really enjoy going there. The general theme of question goes on for a few minutes, and she asks us about the teachers, the administration, how we feel about going there, etc. After a few more questions, she turns to her kid and says, "You will go to school here. It sounds like a great place." She turns back to myself and my mates and says, "Would one of you please mind giving your uniform to my son? It looks expensive, and I think you would be able to afford it better than I will." We all deny her and make to leave the carriage. She sees us leaving and reaches down to try and take my bag and run. She does so, but doesn't get far, as mates 1 and 2 both run after her and tackle her to the ground. While this is happening, mate 3 goes up to the emergency intercom and tells the train driver to call the police and stop at the next station. When the police arrive at the next station, the entitled parent is taken into custody after the statements from myself, my 3 friends, and a random person who saw it all happen. All of this, coupled with the security tapes from the carriage, meant that she was found guilty of attempted robbery. She was charged a few fines costing over $2,000. One of these was for the fact that the train had to wait for a while for the police to arrive. She had to pay the cost of this effect. So Karen, have you ever tried taking something that didn't belong to you? Of course I have, Mr. Reddit. It's how I've gotten most of my favorite things I own. And you don't feel bad about taking people's stuff? Why should I? Let me tell you something about the world we live in. When you want something, you have to go out to get it, even if that means taking it from others. Well, how would you feel if someone just took something that belonged to you? Take something that belongs to me? Well, I wouldn't stand for it. What kind of monster would do something like that? You can't park there. Okay, you can, but it will cost you. My parents had this problem with a guy parking a tractor trailer on their land. He lives right across from one of their pecan groves. The grove has well-spaced trees all in neat rows. The grass is mowed super short. The ground is really flat. It looks like an ideal place to pull your rig if you don't know better. The ground is so flat because they use mechanical harvesting, Bumps and grooves can cause the machines to leave pecans laying on the ground. A 2-inch deep grove from a big truck like that can hold thousands of dollars of pecans and will until it is fixed. Oh, and you have to get them up by hand. It's a big deal when someone messes with your livelihood like that. So the guy parks there one time. They get it. He probably doesn't understand he's causing so much trouble. Dad goes down, explains the damage he has done, tells him the grove is private property and not to do it again. Dude, we'll call him Dude, agrees, apologizes. Dad goes home, fixes damage midweek. Next Friday, there is the truck again, same spot. Dad, not about to put up with this, calls the sheriff's department. Cop comes, truck moves. Dad fixes damage midweek. Next week, no truck. 1 week later, truck is back. Repeat complaint for trespassing to sheriff. Dude claims he forgot. He drives over the road, and his Home Depot where his car is parked is 30 miles away. It is convenient for Dude to forget because he saves his gas and time by driving his employer's rig and parking it on my parents' land. Also, he doesn't get nailed if his cab isn't clean. No other driver gets assigned his truck. There are plain motivations. Dude clearly does not forget every time he is home, but this is what he claims to the deputies sent out on the complaints. After 7 times the sheriff's department is called, he finally gets a trespassing citation. No fine is levied. Drives his car 2 weeks in a row. Following week, truck is back. At this point, my dad has fixed this damage so often, he is keeping a tractor and blade on the property, so it gets done faster and easier. Calls the sheriff yet again. The sheriff himself comes out this time. Truck leaves. Sheriff comes to see my dad. Says the enforcement problem is that it is hard to explain to a court the harm when pictures hardly show any damage, and Dude always apologizes and moves the truck when deputies come. Says getting Dude for trespassing under those circumstances is going to be tough, but he is on this and will see it through for my parents, but his office is 30 miles away, not that many deputies to be out patrolling, etc. And then the sheriff, bless his little elected heart, says, but if there were something different, like a theft of services going on, the next day, signs go up on 80 trees in a row. 8,000 feet, they are 100 feet apart. Semi-parking, $500 per hour. Prepay, violators will be towed. Dude doesn't pay the signs any mind. Dude does, however, pay the tow truck and deputies quite a bit of mind. Comes running and screaming, waving his arms as they are hooking up. Well, before my dad called to have him towed, everything was documented, including having the sheriff himself drive by and take several pictures of the truck parked with the clearly visible signs. Everything is put on hold while Dude's employer, who owns the truck, drives out. After 3 hours, Dude's boss gives up and writes a check for $7,800 to cover parking and tow truck fees. That actually covered the tow truck, all the repairs, printing the signs, and beer for about a year for my dad's Tuesday poker gathering. Salute. Dude, who still lives there, does not park in the pecan grove. His boss payroll deducted his checks for 2 years. Yes, my dad is awesome. Serves him right for parking there over and over. Oh, he wasn't doing anything wrong. Let the man park his truck there and stop being such a baby. But the truck was damaging the ground and affecting their business. Excuses, excuses. I would have just kept parking there, and if he had called the sheriff on me, I would have sued him. Would you really be able to sue someone for calling the cops on you? Oh, Mr. Reddit, you can sue someone for just about anything nowadays. Well, can I sue my viewers if they don't smash that thumbs up? Smooth, Mr. Reddit, real smooth. Husband goes full drill sergeant on a Karen. Before I start this story, I have to tell you about my husband. I'm French and we met while he was on vacation in Europe. One thing led to another and now I live in Ohio with him. He is a hard-working gentleman, an Army veteran of 2 conflicts, and though he has a very serious and almost hostile demeanor, think resting jerk face, but angrier and on a guy, he is a big teddy bear, quick to make a joke or pull a prank and easy to laugh. He is also very protective of me. Since I'm not here to gush on him, I'll go on. We were out getting groceries last week. As we were checking out, I was bagging up all our stuff because the store now requires that you bag your own goods if you bring your own bags. No big deal. He pays, and I stay to help a very elderly lady behind him bag her groceries and put them in her cart. He had helped her unload them, and we offered to help her put them in her car. She shuffles away from the register, and I move to follow. As I turn away, I hear behind me, "Where the heck do you think you're going?" I turn to see a very angry-looking woman glaring at me. I told her politely that I didn't work at the store and I had just helped the elderly lady to be polite and that I was now leaving with my husband to go home. I had never met an American Karen before, so I thought this would be the end of it. I turn to walk away and feel a vice grip on my arm. "Don't be lazy. Just do your job and help bag my groceries." I didn't even have time to respond. She had barely finished speaking when my husband wrenched her hand off me and was yelling in her face. This was the first time in the 10 years we've been together that I saw the old soldier come out. His nose might have been 3 inches from hers, and his voice was loud and frightening. "Who the heck do you think you are? How dare you put your hands on my wife? She told you she doesn't work here. Are you too stupid to understand simple English? Go bag your own groceries, and don't you dare utter another sound." The silence after that was intense. A store full of people could hear a pin drop. The look on her face wasn't even angry. It was pure terror. She shuffled back to her aisle and waited for the cashier. My husband went to the old lady and said, "I am so sorry you had to hear all that, ma'am. I apologize. I hope you will still allow us to help you load your groceries into your car." It was surreal, like he had just flipped on a switch and flipped it back off. Also, we got chased down by the store manager who suggested we could be banned because of the yelling. Husband just shrugged and said they had better ban the Karen too for assaulting me, and that there are other grocery stores in town. We just go to this one because it's close. Didn't get banned. Now that's how you put a Karen in her place. Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. What do you know about putting a Karen in her place? I know I put you in yours, right across from me, and you've been sitting there ever since. Steal my design and get all the credit? Enjoy getting kicked off. So my friend over in Korea studies fashion design. She sometimes sends me over the sketches of the designs, and they all look amazing. Then again, I'm not into fashion. She is particularly interested in designing handbags and purses. She told me a story about how she shut down one of the most entitled, self-centered, lazy students on campus. Cast. We've got Grace, our main character girl. We've got Jane, the evil one. We've got the professor, the instructor of the course. Story. At first, Grace and Jane got along just fine. They were both interested in similar stuff and quickly became BFFs. Grace decided to show Jane her sketches and designs for handbags and purses, and Jane was so impressed by it. Because the sketches were in incredible detail, including all of the patterns and sew lines coupled with figurative measurements. Even Professor was impressed by it, and it was no surprise that Grace got a high mark on their first major exam. Jane didn't do so well and practically followed Grace everywhere to get pointers on how to do better. So Grace decided to help her out. Unfortunately, Jane turned out to be one of the most entitled, lazy, and selfish people that Grace has ever met. Things that Jane did to upset Grace included, but are not limited to, not paying attention, being late on their study session, never showing appreciation, didn't pay for coffee or snacks, complaining annoyingly about how hard it was to draw something. Grace pretty much gave up on her after a week, refusing to meet Jane outside of her class. Time went by, and for their midterm, everyone in the class had to do a presentation on the stuff they had designed. When it was Jane's turn, Grace was shocked to see Jane had stolen one of her designs. Thankfully, Grace had multiple designs going on, so there were no conflicts when it was her turn to present. But she was seething with rage. Grace had a meeting with the professor afterwards, and the professor knew what was going on, but couldn't really do anything with Jane because it turns out she was the daughter of the chairman, or one of the major investors. Grace said she can't recall. The chairman apparently blackmailed the professor into giving Jane the best grades. The revenge. Professor did, however, help Grace devise a plan to humiliate and expose Jane. For the finals, the professor announced to the class they would do another presentation, but it would be 3 designs, and advised they had to bring their A games because professionals from industries would be grading their work. Now the head of the department and the chairman would be there as well. So you know how Grace had a bunch of sketches for the class? Well, Grace also had a separate sketchbook that had designs from major brands. MK, Coach, you name it. She never used these directly for class assignments, but rather as inspirations for her designs. Grace pretended to be all friendly with Jane again and brought the other's sketchbook on their meetings, still putting up with all the problems mentioned above. Grace secretly worked tirelessly on her new design and did her best to keep it a secret from Jane. So the day of the final presentation arrives, and Grace and Professor are grinning because they know what is about to happen. Grace went first, and she got a lot of praise from the judges. After a few more presentations, the last one to go was Jane. Jane's presentation turned out to be another copycat, copying designs of not one, not two, but 3 different companies. After the presentation, this was how it all went down, at least according to Grace. Judge 1. So, you are saying you designed all of these by yourself, right? Jane. That's right. Judge. And you swear that it really was your design, and you didn't copy off from anything else, right? Jane. I swear. Judge. You are aware your designs are from these brands? Huh? Are you aware that these are on the market right now, and some of the most popular designs? Wait, hold on. Judge 2. Yeah, I was going to bring this up. If you had worked for any brands, you would have probably been fired, or worst case, sued. Jane. But… Judge 2. Please, I am not done yet. Did you honestly think this would work? We, the judges, have been in the industry for over 10 years. We know a copycat when we see it. But these aren't even my designs. They are from Grace. Judge 3 to Grace. Is this true? Grace. Yes, but I never use them for major projects, nor call them my work. I just use sketches of them as inspiration for my own designs. Judge 3. Well, that was clear from your presentation. Turning back to Jane. Now, Miss Jane, this is a clear case of plagiarism, and I do hope your school is merciful on this matter. After the presentation was over, the chairman screamed at the professor in front of everyone, not realizing he just revealed all the blackmailing and the secret grade deal. Jane tried to call out Grace on how she did her over, but it really didn't matter. No one listened to Jane's attempt and slander, and she was kicked out of the school. Chairman pretty much lost all support and had to resign, and was replaced by a far more honorable and competent one. Nothing better than a cheater getting busted. Oh, she didn't even do anything wrong. Karen, she stole her designs and used them for a graded class project. Oh, that's fine. I did that all throughout my high school career, and look how I turned out. Entitled family forces me to babysit for an entire weekend, makes me miss my mother's birthday. So let us start. I am Ghanaian, and if anyone knows anything about West Africa, you will know that Ghanaians and Nigerians share a lot in common and often find themselves in the same communities. So the entitled family cast. We've got entitled mother, entitled father, entitled kids 1 and 2. This is a Nigerian family that had moved into our little town and naturally entered my parents' circles and therefore became family friends. This started the process of them becoming a thorn in our family sides. The event I'll mention is what severed ties between our families. So after a couple of years living in our town, they had moved to the nearby city where entitled father got a nice job as a consultant, doctor, in cardiology. Good for them, but when they moved, they put entitled kids in private school and became integrated into the high society, and my city is a very affluent city in the UK. If their entitlement was a 6, they were 12 now. Once in a while, when they wanted to go to their high society parties, I would be asked to babysit their entitled kids for the night. I didn't mind. I got on with the kids as I established that I am not one to mess with. If they obeyed rules, they were rewarded, but I had no qualms punishing them and held firm to my boundaries. Once they understood, they were mostly well behaved. In fact, I got way better at parenting their kids than them. When I gave instructions, they obeyed. They didn't even obey their parents' instructions. Anyway, I have a busy life juggling a master's with a job, so usually when I babysat the night, I usually had plans for the day after, but as time went on, the entitled parents kept ignoring my plans and finding ways to make me stay the rest of the day, like forcing me to go to church with them and conveniently going shopping in the mall for hours when they were meant to drive me home. I lived a 40-minute drive from them. No matter how much I protested, they kept finding ways. Anyway, the event. I was asked to babysit whilst they went for dinner on a Friday night. My mother's birthday was on Saturday, so I made it abundantly clear that I had to leave in the morning to spend the day with my mom. They said they will drop me home by 9 a.m. on Saturday. I agreed. They went to their party. Around 2 a.m., the entitled parents have still not arrived, and I went to sleep. I woke up around 7 a.m. and realized they were not home. I rang them to find where they were. This was the phone call. Me. Auntie, African custom to call older females aunt, whether they are related or not. Please, where are you? You said you would drop me home today. Entitled mom. Oh, OP, the party ran late. Are the kids okay? Is something wrong? Me. The kids are okay. We were wondering where you are and when you're coming home. Entitled mom. Oh, we are in our hotel room. We have a meeting all day today and we'll be back Sunday. They had lied and gone to London for the weekend. Me. Auntie, I can't stay the weekend. I have to go to mom's for her birthday. I am sure your mother will understand if you miss it as you are busy with the kids. Me. No, she won't. My mother is dramatic, and you promised me. Maybe I can take them home with me. No. There is no way you should take them on public transport. I don't want them sitting in the dirty train. Me. But I have to go home. No. Stay. Stay with the kids and don't take them anywhere. Do you hear me? It's not like I left you with nothing. You should be grateful. I cooked for you. Small things I ask of you, and you are being disrespectful. Where are your manners? Didn't your mother raise you to respect your elders? One weekend with kids, and you're throwing a tantrum. I feel sorry for your future children. She hung up and refused to pick up my calls. I ring my mother and tell her the situation. I'm upset. She is upset, and the best way to fight an entitled parent is to send another entitled parent to battle with them. My mother has been a mother longer than her and has mastered her dramatic manipulation technique. So my mother rings her and lays into her. My mother rings again and tells me to take care of the kids for the weekend, but this will be the last time I will ever babysit for the family. So I stayed for the weekend and dealt with entitled kid shenanigans. My parents arrive on Sunday to pick me up, and together we wait for entitled parents. Now bear in mind, I don't know what went down in the phone call between the two sets of parents, but when entitled parents arrive, they look shook. The minute they see my mother, they are scared. They don't even say anything to me. The entitled father just pushed 150 pounds into my hands, and my mother drags me into the car. The entitled parents lock the door in a hurry, and my parents are fuming in silence on the way home. I have never seen such animosity. Anyway, that was the last time I ever saw that family ever again. Update. I rang my mom and asked, so bear in mind that both parties believe in African superstitions. So obviously during this phone call between the mothers, my mom is upset. She's screaming and started calling them out since they became well off, how they have changed and have grown horns, and now my mom is going to make it her personal mission to remove the horns since their parents don't love them enough to do so. She is doing it as a caring, concerned Christian woman. She threatened to ring the hospital. Oh, fun fact, they work in the same hospital. My mom is a nurse, and make them aware of the NSPCC allegations she's about to make and let all his colleagues know. Then remember I said both are Christian? This is where the weird irony. My mom's relative is a juju, voodoo-like priest in Ghana. My mother told the entitled parents that she was going to make me go into their bathroom to collect personal stuff and have it sent to the juju priest to cast black magic on them. She said she was going to rain down curses and make sure they never prosper. If they didn't want that to happen, they better make my time worthwhile, and it better be able to buy her an awesome gift, hence the 150 pounds. Before that, I was babysitting for free because I liked their kids. After, my parents and I went to a great restaurant to celebrate the birthday. Why do some people think you should babysit for them for free? Oh, I never pay my babysitters. They're just lucky I let them watch my angels. Karen, you really don't pay your babysitters? Well, initially I tell them I'm going to pay them, but I just never do. It saves me a lot of money. And they continue to babysit for you after you stiff them like that? That's the only problem. For some reason, they refuse to babysit again after that. And I just can't seem to figure out why. Kid asks for plush. Mom immediately insults me because I didn't give it to him right after he asked. This was on my little brother's birthday, April 17th. Me and my mom were at Walmart picking up a cake for everyone to have, then a small personal one for him to eat to himself. After grabbing things like groceries, the cake, and a box of diapers, me and my mom decided to grab him this robotic dinosaur toy as another birthday present because his dad, who was deported out of our country, had managed to send my mom some money and said to buy him something from his dad. As we're going through the aisles, I stop because I wanted to grab a pack of trading cards for myself when I see a Bulbasaur plush, last one, sitting beside 2 Squirtles and a Pikachu. I was paying for my own stuff, so I didn't ask my mom if I could have them or not. Going back to join her, we grab the dino toy and a few more quick things from the pharmacy. We go to self-checkout, and I decide to go to one and buy my stuff quickly so I can help my mom out with the heavier stuff in the cart. I scan the Bulbasaur first and put him in my bag before scanning the cards, a drink, and some candy. I'm about to put my money in to pay when I notice a small kid is looking into my bag. I don't know if it was just that he happened to be really pale or if he was sick, but I wasn't going to take my chances since I'm higher risk. Only there because my mom jacked up her shoulder and can't lift heavy things. I swipe my bag away from him and shove my 20 into the machine, asking him very nicely to go back to his parent. He looks at me and says,
"You got the Bulbasaur. They only had Pichu and the turtle in the aisle. Could we please trade? I already got the turtles, but I don't like Pichu much."
I didn't even get to speak because as soon as he stopped speaking, his mother started, "Just give him the dang toy. You're like 12. You don't need a plushie." "He asked, now give." I look at her before speaking in a tired tone. "Ma'am, I am 17 years old, and I do not think you should be speaking to me like that. You should learn some manners and be a better role model for your kid." He had asked me already to trade the plushie. I get cut off. "Oh, shut up already and give my baby the toy. I don't care how old you are. I'm an adult and you're just a kid." My mom looks upset. I send her a quick text in my hoodie pocket that, thanks to autocorrect, said, "Let Key handle it." Turning to the kid, I ignored his mom for a minute as I talked to him. "Sorry, kiddo, but I want to keep the Bulbasaur. How about I give you some candy for asking nicely instead of trying to take it?" I handed him a bag of M&Ms I had planned to eat on the car ride home, and he seemed content, telling his mom he wanted to go as I turned and walked to my mom and grabbed the heavy stuff for her. Then entitled mom comes over, barely says, "Excuse me," and my mom whips around, nearly hitting them with her long braid, Rapunzel-looking hair she's been growing out since she was a kid, and says, "You better be over here to apologize for my son for being a jerk and not be trying to take something he bought with his own money." Now, I can't remember the argument as I tuned it out. Pretty sure the kid did too, because he was happily eating M&Ms, but it ended quickly as I just finished scanning everything and put myself between the two and said, "I get the adults are almost screaming at each other, but can you at least pay so I can put everything in the car? The ice cream's gonna start melting, and you left your youngest two with your sister." Reluctantly on my mother's end, me and my mom started to leave, and the kid comes up and happily chirps,
"Thank you. I'ma tell Daddy I was a good boy and asked nicely, and I'll make sure he knows Mommy was a meanie."
On the car ride home, my mom yelled up a storm about that woman, and I chugged some Coca-Cola and wondered how the dad was gonna react to his wife being a meanie, according to his son. My little brother shoved his face into his cake and more so demolished it instead of ate it. "Hey Karen, did you ever watch Pokemon?" "Oh no, but I know what it is. My kids have so much Pokemon stuff. It's ridiculous." "Nice. You know, I've heard that stuff can be pretty expensive." "Oh, I wouldn't know. We never buy it. We just take it from people when we see something we like." "You mean like stealing?" "Oh, heavens no. Do you think we are some sort of criminals?" "So what's the difference between you taking people's stuff and criminals stealing it?" "How dare you! The difference is, I'm not a criminal." I helped my grandma, so I must work here? So this happened to me about September last year. I was wearing a light blue button-up shirt, jeans, and formal black slip-on shoes, and I was with my grandma. Amazing old lady would do anything for anyone and never want anything in return other than for the person to pay it forward. I've grown up my whole life following those words. So I'm at the local supermarket with my elderly grandma doing some shopping, walking through the store, just grabbing bits and bats, anything we need, obviously talking to her through the store, helping put things into the cart, grabbing stuff from the tops of shelves that she can't reach, you know, the kind of thing anyone would do. And it was at this point, Heck would drop a Karen right in front of me. "Grandma, oh, I was thinking about doing some cookies for us to share and enjoy. Would you like that?" I should note my grandma is very well aware of everything, She has full motor skills and is actually a very good baker, even now. You'll never see her not doing something like gardening, baking, sewing, knitting, grandma-like things, I guess. Me. Yeah, sure, we can do that. Just tell me what you need. I'll quickly grab it while you wait here. So Grandma lists off everything I need to grab and stands at the end of the aisle waiting. I run off, grabbing a few items, showing her from down the aisle to confirm the brand or the type she wants, when the clearing of the throat sounded behind me. I turned around, slightly having a quick glance. It was nobody, just someone actually clearing their throat. I was safe. Then the ill-fated tap on my shoulder. I turned around, hoping it's not what I think it is. Karen. Excuse me? When you're done waving them items around in the air, can you give me them? Me. Sorry, no. I'm buying these for myself and my grandma. But I can quickly grab you some from the top if you can't reach them yourself. Karen. You're buying them yourself? That's very selfish of you. Buying items while on the clock? So unprofessional. And from a manager, no less. She looks me up and down, seeing my clothes. Me. I'm not a man. She cuts me off, snatching a box out of my hand. Shut up and give me them now. I'm going to call your corporate office for this. She pauses, looking at the box. I don't want this brand. Give me the other. Me. Lady, I don't even work here. Give me that back. I'm buying it myself, like I told you. My grandma at this point has walked away and found an actual employee, pointing Karen out. While she continues on her rampage of calling corporate and getting me written up, even fired when store employee walks up. Store employee. Ma'am, what seems to be the problem here? Your manager is buying items while on the clock. I want corporate's number. You deserve better than him, young man. Me. Lady, listen to what I've told you a dozen times already. I don't work here. Karen just screeches. Shut up. She hits me with the box, bursting it open, making the produce fall out onto the floor. I grab the Karen's wrist. Me. What the heck, lady? Store employee radios in the incident to security. Employee. Yeah, we've got a crazy lady hitting another customer with items from the shelves. Karen. I'm not crazy, you jerk. And unhand me, you monster. Let me go, you're hurting me. She swings at me again, catching me on the cheek. That's when my grandma comes over. You don't mess with grandma's grandson. I let Karen go, and then smack. Grandma. Listen here, you ungrateful stuck-up jerk. You do not do that to my grandson, ever. Karen goes to swing at my grandma, screaming her head off, so loud you could actually hear dogs howling from miles away. When I grab her arm, along with the security guard who had made her way over, who told me to let go, took the Karen's other arm and pinned her down. The store employee took me and my grandma away from it all, taking us to the front of the store, constantly apologizing while laughing and joking with us about the slap from my grandma. Police arrived and questioned us about what had happened once it was all cleared up. The actual manager appeared, not only got his staff to grab everything for us both, but allowed us to have it for free. An amazing guy. We refused several times, but he wouldn't allow us to actually pay. Not 10 minutes later, Karen was dragged out of the store in handcuffs. There was a bunch of little conversations that happened, but I don't remember what was said too well, so I left it out. I went back to the store 2 days later and found the same store employee, asked him what actually happened with her. As far as he knows, she was an apparent reoffender of the same thing, and to his knowledge, she was still in a prison cell. Well, sounds like that Karen definitely learned her lesson. She did nothing wrong. She just wanted help. Yeah, she actually reminded me of you a lot. Maybe you guys are related or something. Possibly. Almost sounds like she could have been my cousin Carol, or my Aunt Jackie, or my... Well, as interesting as the Karen family tree is, don't you have a special announcement for us, Karen? I sure do. Huge shout out to Amanda, our newest official channel member. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as a member today, and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And if you'd like me to make a special video for you or a loved one, come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below. Entitled jerk tries to ask me out. His entitled mom steps in. Cast. We've got me, Ellie. We've got entitled kid. We've got entitled mom. We've got my brothers, Chris and Keith. For some context, I am 5'1". I'm tiny. People would say I'm attractive, doesn't always work in my favor. I'm at the mall with my two brothers, but I went to Forever 21 while they went somewhere else. I get everything, and I start to walk out of the store. Entitled Kid stops me. Hi, I'm Entitled Kid. Me. Hi, Entitled Kid. Do I know you? Entitled Kid. No, but are we in Paris? I don't say anything. Entitled Kid doesn't say anything. Me. No? Entitled Kid. 'Cause I fell for you. Me. Oh, that's funny. Haha. I'm Ellie, but I'm sorry. I'm already in a relationship. Entitled Kid. Did I ask that? Haha. Me. Well, I'm very loyal to my boyfriend, and I think I'm a bit older than you. Well, who says you can't have a guy on the side? You look like a party girl, and you're wearing short shorts. You can't wear those if you have a boyfriend. Stop making excuses. Me. First of all, I can wear whatever I want. Entitled Kid blocks me in with his hands. Me. Please stop. I don't feel comfortable. At this point, I see a woman standing a ways off, watching this intensely. I figure it's his mother. Entitled Kid. Come on, you probably go to school with me. I mean, you're shopping at our town mall. Me. Oh, I'm very sorry, but I'm actually 23 and don't go to high school anymore. Oh, stop lying. You're like 4 feet tall. Me. Entitled Kid, I'm sorry about this. I'm 23 and you're like 16. Oh my god, you do go to school with me. That's how you know I'm 16. Me. Look, I can't date you. I'm sure you'll find a great girl that you can take to prom and whatever. I start to move his hands out of the way, and Entitled Mom runs over at the speed of sound. Entitled Kid starts sniffling. Entitled Mom. How dare you speak to my son that way? Me. Ma'am, he's 16. Be quiet. Okay, Entitled Kid, work your magic now. Entitled Mom steps back. Entitled Kid. So, you want to go down to Texas Roadhouse or something? Entitled Mom, evil grin. Me. Look, Entitled Kid, you're a great kid, but I'm too old for you. Entitled Mom. Nope. You're going to go with him. If you're that picky, you can choose the place. Me. No, I'm not going to go anywhere with him. I don't care. She grabs my wrist. Me. Stop! Leave me alone. I try to get out of Entitled Mom's grip, but I'm too tiny, and Entitled Kid grabs my other hand. I scream and manage to start calling my brother on my watch. Keith and Chris came running. Now, I got the short end of the stick with the height. My mom's entire family is tall. Chris is 6'7" and Keith is 6'4". Chris, let go of her. Keith, now, I'm not asking again. I don't know where the security guards were here. Maybe it was just a crappy mall. Entitled Mom lets go and pretends she's hurt, but they shut that down real quick. Entitled Mom was pretty intimidated by them. She was probably only 5'6". Entitled Mom. Well, my son is asking her on a date. That's all, a date. Chris. Well, how old is your son? Ellie is 23. Entitled Kid. I'm 16. Keith. Let go of her, Entitled Kid. She's 7 years older than him. Are we done here? Entitled Mom. She's not 23. She looks like she's 16. I want proof. I show Entitled Mom my driver's license. Well, that could be fake. Just go on a date with him, or just as friends. It's not that hard. Me. No. Goodbye. Entitled Kid in the distance. Can I have your number? We walk away and enjoy some Panera. Please, respect people's boundaries and be sensible. Wow, it sounds like she really dodged a bullet on that one. Wrong. She's the one who's going to be missing out. That boy sounded perfect for her. He really reminded me of my son. I bet he did, Karen. I bet he did. And I really admire that mother for trying to help her son get what should be rightfully his. Karen. Yes? You are sick. Entitled Mom wants me to weigh her candy at the movie theater. Having worked during college at the local movie theater, I came across all kinds of Karens. In this particular case, Karen went to the movies with her 2 kids, around the ages of 4 to 5. As you guys know, movie theaters have high prices for snacks and drinks. It was Sunday morning, and usually this is a busy time with a lot of kids and kids' movies. It's obvious that I'm dealing with a total Karen straight from the start, keeping on her sunglasses, chewing gum, and being on the phone the entire time she's waiting in line. When it's her turn, I think to myself, my shift just started. Just be nice, and maybe this will all go over smoothly. It didn't. Karen is annoyed by the prices of the tickets. You can buy the tickets and your snacks at the same register, and is not happy with the assortment of healthy snacks. I'm still there, trying to keep up my best smile like I'm the Joker in a low-budget Batman movie, but I'm getting through her order. Now for the kids. As they were acting like dogs running around the place, I will name them like dogs. So Kid 1 is Ollie, Kid 2 is Rex. Note, where I'm from, we have a display where you can scoop your own candy in a bag for a fixed price per 100 grams, 3.5 ounces. Being a movie theater, this is crazy expensive, and a full bag can cost around €16, $17.50 US. Ollie:
Mommy, can we scoop some candy?
Karen: how much for the candy? Me: it's $1.50 per 100 grams.
Yes, Ollie, hurry up with the candy.
Rex: Mom, I want some candy too. Karen:
Ollie, help your brother get his candy.
At this point, she already spent way too much time in line. Normally, you can scoop the candy before you make your purchase to prevent the transaction from taking an extremely long time, and we can help the other customers. Not for Miss Karen though, she just goes back to texting on her phone. I'm baffled, annoyed, and just want to go help other customers because the movie is starting in 15 minutes and the lines for the registers are not moving at all. So me, the good Samaritan that I am, try to eyeball the bag of candy Ollie has so that I can get a rough estimate how much the candy will cost. To my enjoyment, I see the kid with an enormous bag of candy almost the size of his head. So I estimate that it will be around €15. Rex's bag isn't that full, but he is still scooping, and I think to myself, realistically, the price will be higher, but I just want this to be over, and I don't want to overprice them. Me: the total will be €44. Karen:
What? Why is it so expensive?
Me: Miss, the candy weighs a lot, and the price…
But you didn't even weigh it. You're just trying to rip me off. Weigh it and give me the correct price,
she says as she grabs the bags from Ollie and Rex. Well, she was correct. I didn't weigh it, but I wasn't trying to rip her off. Heck, I was giving her a huge discount. So I smiled to her and grabbed the bags of candy and put them on the scale. I can see the price, and so can the customer. Me: sure, miss. As you can see, the price of the candy costs €24, so your total will be €53. So of course Karen gets angry and wants me to call the manager because I am still ripping her off. The managers come along, weigh the candy, and confirm that the price is €53. Because you have to pay the candy when you grab it because of hygiene rules, and there is a big sign, Karen eventually buys everything and walks away angry with her kids. Luckily for me, the manager was a nice dude, so I didn't get into trouble for guessing the weight. And at the end of the shift, I was glad I could ruin a movie experience for Karen. I guess Karen should have been paying a little more attention and a little less time on her phone.
Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. That candy was way too expensive. I would have thrown it back in his face.
You know, it sure was expensive, but hey, that's movie theaters for you.
We usually just steal other people's popcorn when they aren't looking.
Oh no, don't do that, Karen. Just sneak in some McDonald's in your purse.
That's feisty, Mr. Reddit.
I know, right?
But I still like my way better.
My son can't move out on time. It's too mentally stressful. After being scarred by my internship, I finally have the space to think about it and remembered my favorite story. Cast: we've got me, poor graduate school intern. We've got entitled Rich Dad. We've got entitled Kid, the college junior. And we've got the boss, my supervisor. I did my internship in Greek life at a very rich school. I ran the move-out process for our chapter houses, and we had informed the students since February what the May date was for move-outs. They could apply for extinctions until about April 20th, and most were accepted with a fee and accepted until the 27th with a late fee and a damage responsibility waiver for all extensions. Enter entitled kid. We have a lot of entitled kids at the school, but this entitled kid decides to apply May 1st and asks for a day extension because he didn't start packing until a few days before finals. When he is summarily rejected for being past even the late deadline, he calls the office screaming about how it isn't fair and how he obviously was studying for finals, so why should he pack? When that didn't work, he dropped by the office and was rejected again by me for the same reason. He let me know in the most snotty Draco Malfoy tone I had heard yet. I understand that there is nothing that I can do. My father will be giving you a call. Sure enough, about an hour later, Entitled Dad calls. Entitled Dad. Hello, is this OP? Me. Yes, this is she. Yes, I heard from my son that he would not be granted a move-out extension. Me. Yes, unfortunately, he applied after the date and there are no other people approved for an extension in his house, so it was denied for safety purposes. An aside, there has been a tradition that seniors would try and coerce people with extensions to let them into the house after closing to party, and the seniors often trash the house, leaving thousands of dollars in damages. Entitled Dad, still in nice voice. Well, I just don't think that that's acceptable to us. I am concerned for his mental health while studying at this school, and he should not be packing during finals. Me. Sir, all students were reminded in February and April about move-out dates, and all move-out dates have been posted since last August. Entitled Dad. No, you don't understand that you are causing him mental distress. You will give him an extension. This is absolutely unacceptable. We do not pay thousands to go to this school for you to have him fail because of some stupid policy. Me. I am sorry you feel that way, sir. But again, we have reminded students several times about the extension application, and unfortunately, he did not apply on time. Where is your supervisor? I demand to speak with him. Well, my supervisor was in a meeting. I told him so. He flips out more, and I hope my boss backs me up. He doesn't. The kid gets his extension. Why? Because Entitled Dad is friends with a board member, and my boss doesn't want it escalated. I hate rich schools. Just goes to show you why we should never procrastinate on doing the things we have to do. Unless you have a rich mommy or daddy who's friends with the board member. Fair enough, Karen. Fair enough. So you want this now? For free? And will have my job if I don't provide it? I was doing my end-of-month shopping trip, picking up necessities and some stuff for a barbecue I'm having this weekend. I had all the necessities and was heading to the frozen food/meat section. I saw that someone had put a box of chicken fingers in the snack food section and figured I'd put it back while I was there. I had just finished putting it away. The chicken section is beside the deli, and went to walk away when I heard an "Excuse me?" with a super disgusted/angry tone. I turned around and was greeted by a heavy-set woman. Before I could say anything, she started in on me. You need to get me some ham. Me. The ham that's prepackaged is over there. Gestures behind me. You can go get it. Well, no. I want it from the deli and I'm in a hurry. So could you make it quick? Thanks. She looked down at her phone after that, so I just walked away to find some hamburger to make some delicious burgers. I picked up 2 packages and put it in my cart. As I was about to walk away, she rammed my cart and began yelling. I asked you to do something for me. Now do it. Me. Okay, maybe you didn't see, but I'm in a red sweater and shorts. Employees here are in a dark blue shirt and black pants. I don't work here. I can't help you. I saw you putting stuff away. You work here. Stop being lazy and do your dang job. Nearby employee sees/hears what's happening and sends a manager over. Seen as heavy-set woman refuses to let me leave and continues screeching that it's my job to assist her. As she's still screeching that she'll have my job, the manager walks up. Manager. Hi, I'm the manager here. What seems to be the problem? Karen. Your stupid employee here refuses to do her job. That's the problem. Me. I've told you, I don't work here. I'm literally trying to do my shopping right now. Gestures to my half-full cart. You work here? I saw you putting stuff from that cart away. Stop lying. Turns to manager. I want her fired. She's lazy, incompetent, and has no right to talk to a customer like this. Manager. Well, I'm 100% sure she doesn't work here, so I can't. She cuts him off. Karen, in the most condescending tone. She was putting groceries away from the cart she's pushing. She works here. I know it. Don't treat me like I'm stupid. Fire her. Manager looks me up and down. Me. I don't work here. Can I please go and finish my shopping? Karen. Get me my ham and you can. I'm not paying for it either. It can come out of your check. Condescending tone again. If you get one after being fired, that is. Manager. Okay, look, she doesn't work here. She is most definitely not in our uniform. Gestures to himself. Please stop harassing our customers or you will be escorted out. Stop saying she doesn't work here. Me. Well, I don't work here. So, yeah. The manager was getting fed up and moved her cart from mine so I could walk away and finish my shopping. I heard Banshee-like screaming through the store for the next 5 minutes or so. Don't know what came out of it, but when I left the store, there were 3 cop cars sitting outside. Man, that Karen really wanted that ham, didn't she? Of course she did. Ham is the best. It is pretty good, isn't it? Too bad that lazy employee refused to help her. She wasn't even an employee, though. Then why was she putting an item back into the freezer? Because sometimes people do nice things, like putting an item back where it goes. But why would they do that? I don't understand. I'm sure you don't, Karen. I'm sure you don't. Why won't you let my kids harass your pets? You're so selfish. The events of this post happened in the spring of 2018. My boyfriend and I went to his parents' place to spend the weekend, and we took our pets with us. My cat and my 2 dogs and his cat and dog. We were just sitting around chatting, laughing with his parents and sister when boyfriend's cousin came over unannounced with her 3 kids in tow. This was the second or third time I was meeting this woman and the first time I was around her kids. Boyfriend's mom asked cousin if everything was okay. She just smiled and said, "Oh, my husband will be out of town for the weekend, so I thought I'd come over here with the kids. They were getting bored." I suppose it didn't cross her mind to call first. Then she saw me and commented, "Oh, I see your new girlfriend is here too." Boyfriend's parents tried to introduce me to her kids. I'm guessing between the ages of 6 and 10 at the time, but they just ran off to watch TV. That's fine, no biggie. We all tried to make small talk, even as the television was turned on at a deafening volume. My boyfriend's dad had to tell them to turn it down. After we had had lunch is when trouble started. My dog and cat had been asleep when cousin and her kid came in, but now they were up and having a little snack and were noticed by the said kids. They instantly demanded that they be allowed to play with them. Now, my pets are not used to being around kids, and I didn't want them to be harassed, so of course I said no. But apparently, these kids had never heard the word no before. The oldest one, a boy, kept trying to pick up my cat who jumped up on my lap for protection. The middle one, a girl, tried to grab one of my dog's ear, and the youngest, a boy, tried to climb on my other dog's back. All of this happened within a span of no more than 5 seconds. I decided to raise my voice a little and told them to leave my pets alone. They looked shocked, and the youngest one began to cry. The others, boyfriend, his parents, his sister, and cousin, were in the next room and came running when they heard the commotion. The kid who was crying went bawling to his mommy and told her how I was being mean. The other 2 said they wanted to play with the dogs and cat, and I wouldn't let them. Cousin decided to get in my face and asked how dare I yell at her kids. I told her to calm down and that she needed to teach her kids some manners and how to interact with animals, and told her what her precious angels had been doing. She didn't think her kids' behavior was problematic because that's what kids do. She then proceeded to yell at me about how awful and rude I was being. This is when my boyfriend jumped in. He made her back off with a stern, "Do not raise your voice at her ever again." Cousin has always been a bit intimidated by my boyfriend, and this shut her up. Boyfriend's parents and sister backed us up and told cousin she should teach her kids to be kind to animals. From the way they were talking, and as my boyfriend told me later on, this wasn't the first time cousin's kids had attacked someone's pet. My boyfriend's sister's dog at the time was really old, and his parents had gotten a puppy a few months earlier. The kids had been told, in no uncertain terms, that they were not to go near them. The rest of the weekend was a mix of fun and awkwardness. The awkwardness was due to boyfriend's cousin, who made it a point to stare daggers at me and my pets. Thankfully, boyfriend's parents' house is enormous, and our room and cousins' and kids' room was on different floors, so we mostly just interacted with them during meals. Boyfriend's parents have a separate room for pets. It has several beds, toys, cat trees, etc. that family members' pets can use. During our stay, all of our cats and dogs would hang out in this room, and cousin's kids were banned from it. Boyfriend's cousin complained several times that it was such a waste to use such a large room for pets and that it should have been a kid's room so her spawn could play in it. even though her kids had infested the rest of the house. I remember thinking, what a Karen. Over the years, this woman has lived up to this name. Why is it so hard for some people to respect others' pets? Here's the way I see it, Mr. Reddit. If you don't want my kids playing with your pets, keep them at home. Once you bring them out into the public, you have no say in what my kids do to them. Karen, that literally makes zero sense. It would if you had respect for others, Mr. Reddit. You have no right to tell me what my kids can or cannot do. Entitled mom said I need to give her kid my place in line that I've waited for an hour. So a bit of context. I'm 14 and I've never had a Karen situation before until this happened last summer when I was 13, and I go with my cousins and uncle to a Cedar Point every year, which is a theme park sort of thing. But anyway, here you go. Enjoy. Cast. We've got Entitled Mom. We've got her cool kid. We've got me. We've got my epic uncle. We've got my cousins 1, 2, and 3. We've got my aunt and security. So we went to a giant roller coaster, and the wait is an hour long. We all wanted to ride it, so we waited, and we had a lot of fun playing games with each other. And the kid behind us was pretty cool, and he showed us some other games. I think he was like 11, but still cool. Then we got up to the front. We were next up in line, and then Entitled Mom said this. Excuse me, can we go in front of you? My kid really wants to go on this ride. Cool kid. No, Mom, they're in front of us. They are next. Be quiet, cool kid. We will be next. Uncle. Sorry, but we've been waiting for an hour for this. But you're next, so I think you're good. Excuse me, I am older than you, and I deserve this more. My kid does too. He has a terrible sickness. Uncle. Ma'am, please stop. I'm a doctor. And he is. Tell me his symptoms so I know what it is. By this point, me and my cousins were wondering why the ride was taking so long. It had broke, but they said it would be back up in 5 minutes, so we had to suffer through more of this. Entitled Mom. Well, he's coughing and sneezing and other stuff. Cool kid. Mom, stop. Let these people be. This is where crap gets crazy. I kid you not. She slaps, and my uncle then picks up the kid and puts him beside him. Uncle. Ma'am, why did you do that? He talked back, so I punished him. I look over and the kid just has tears streaming down his face. By now, the ride attendants came over with security and asked what happened. Entitled Mom. Oh, thank God you're here. This man assaulted me. Please take him away. Security. What? No, I saw what happened. Now you come with me. No, we have waited an hour for this ride. We are going on it. Security. Ma'am, stop. You will have to come with us. Your kid can go on the ride if it's okay with these people. No, I will go with him. Me. Hey, I can go with him if that's okay. Security. That would be good, but an adult must be with him. Uncle. Me and nephew will go with him. Security. That is fine. Come on, ma'am. Let's go. So we went on the ride, and I think Cool Kid enjoyed it, as he was smiling after. The Entitled Mom was taken to the police station after. The kid's dad took him to his house. They were divorced, and my uncle and him were both doctors, so they talked for a bit. He was nice. The rest of the day was great, and the Cool Kid and his dad were let back into the park, and we hung out for a bit, and my uncle and him are friends now, so good ending, I guess. Do you like roller coasters, Karen? They're okay, but the best part is cutting people in the line. You really enjoy cutting in line more than the ride itself? Of course I do, because I deserve it. Well, you know what I enjoy, Karen? What? Reminding my viewers to smash that like button. Oh, you're getting good at that. Teacher kicked me out of assembly and, inadvertently, gave me a year-long recess. So, a brief backstory. They're not really crucial to the plot, but it paints a nice background. Any of those that read the story about my evil stepmother know that by the age 14, I was living alone in my father's house and making a pretty comfortable living renting out his rooms to students. Therefore, needless to say, for me, high school was a blast. Now, I'm not going to lie and say I was a good student. I was anything but. I mean, I never drank or smoked, but I skipped class almost more often than I attended. When I rarely did show my face, I'd often just go sit in any class that I felt like, whether I took the subject or not. Sometimes I'd just go to school for recess and go home again after. I was really living the dream of any B-average student. What's more, I hardly ever got in trouble. Even when I got caught, the teachers would kinda just brush it off, and let me get away without so much as a slap on the wrist. Most of the teachers either loved me or had long since realized there really was nothing that could be done about me, so they mostly just humored my antics. There was, however, one teacher that saw through my charms. He was the first language teacher, never my favorite or anything, but I truly held no ill will towards him. In fact, I kinda respected him for being the only one that actually bothered calling me out on all my crap. Although this seldom did any good, because whenever he threatened to call my parents, obnoxious kid that I was, I would just ask him, which parent? My mother is in heaven. Are my father somewhere in Africa? If you manage to reach either of them, could you please ask them to check in once in a while? And this would kinda be the end of the conversation, because as arrogant as I was about it, my argument wasn't untrue. On to the day of the actual story. I was in my senior year and still attending classes on an off and on basis, but attending more than I did in the past. I wasn't trying to change my ways or anything, but I was in the process of putting together a 4-hour-long video of our high school years and realized I had skipped so much that year that I hardly had enough footage to use for that segment. On this particular day though, I had picked the wrong day to attend and ended up having to attend assembly. This did not sit well with me, as I had a personal gripe against our school principal for something that had happened in my sister's senior year, and therefore I refused to show him any kind of respect. He later got canned for having an affair with the PE teacher, so karma, but I digress. Now, as arrogant as I was, I do maintain that I wasn't actually talking as loud as the language teacher accused me of, but I will openly admit that I wasn't paying any attention to the principal's speech, because I hadn't done so in 4 years and definitely wouldn't have done so that day. So maybe I was, who knows. He wasn't an unfair teacher or anything. Nonetheless, the language teacher pulled me out of assembly and forced me to go stand outside. So I stand there waiting. Several teachers pass me. One asks why I'm not inside. I answer that the language teacher kicked me out. They say, "Oh, okay," and continue about their business. Later, the assembly ends, the students exit, and I'm kinda standing there waiting to be called to the office or just for some kind of consequence, but nada, nothing, zilch. So I walk back to class thinking, that was awesome. Cue the malicious compliance. So the next week rolls around. I decide to attend school that day. Assembly time comes. The other students enter. I hang back, and when the doors close, I'm still outside. I hang around again. Later, a passing teacher asks why I'm not inside. I once more answer that the language teacher sent me out, and she again walks away without saying another word. The next week, I do the same thing, but this time, instead of hanging out where the teacher told me, I just take a leisurely stroll outside, getting fresh air and an extra long recess while the other students are stuck inside that boring assembly. The week after, I invited a friend to try it out with me. He agreed, and when the bell rang for assembly, we both just hung back while the other students entered the building. So now I actually had company for this extra long recess. This was like the best discovery ever. Needless to say, I never set foot inside the assembly hall again. I wish I could say the same for my friend, but after 2 weeks he had grown paranoid and started attending again. Chicken. I would have loved to have ended this story by saying that the language teacher eventually caught me and I could have told him that he was the one that sent me out, but that moment never happened. Even though I was in the wrong and I knew it, I still would have loved that argument. Did any of you guys ever skip class when you were in school? Please let me know in the comments. I skipped all the time and still got straight A's in all my classes. How did you get straight A's if you were never even there? My parents were friends with board members. A new teacher once threatened to fail me for a project that I never turned in. He was fired the next day. Wow, sounds like you were quite the student, eh? The teachers must have loved you. Of course they did. I mean, who doesn't? Entitled Grandma Gets $30,000 Stolen from Her. Hi everyone, I posted the Entitled Mom Takes a $5 Tip from an ice cream shop story. Thank you Mr. Reddit for reading it. Made my week and a little update. My mom has gotten so much more kind and understanding of people. She's learned her lesson and she tips now. In that post, I mentioned an entitled grandmother. This is about her. The last words I ever heard from her in person was, "Okay, when you two get older, make sure you marry someone with a lot of money." She's obsessed with money. I have no doubt she would sell her soul, grandchildren, and children to the devil for it. Anyways, I was not in Cali during the events of this story and learned it from my aunt. So when I was in middle school, my mom had to come up to the Midwest to help my dad after a work-related accident. He's all better now. At the time, my cousin and I were the same age, but she was very flirtatious around boys. I've always been more shy and quiet, while she's been an extrovert with tons of friends. We're yin and yang to each other. At the time, she was dating some bad boy. I knew nothing about him or his friends until this incident. For a little context, when my cousin and I were little, we played in my grandma's room a lot. Their headboard of the bed was drawers, and in the middle was a drawer we could never open. This will be important later, and I have no idea how she and her husband slept in that bed. I don't know how much information my cousin told them about my grandma's home, but her boyfriend at the time and 2 of his friends broke in. They stole a bunch of stuff. Then they got to the drawer my cousin and I couldn't open as kids. I'm not sure how they got it open, but apparently behind the drawer was a safe that had $30,000 worth of stuff in there. I've never seen inside the safe. No one in our family knew it existed except for her. So if you want to just imagine, it's full of gold and jewels. We only found out after my grandmother came home and found the place looted. Apparently, the kids pawned everything at a pawn shop in the town, and the cops found them soon after. I don't know what became of the stuff in the safe, but apparently it was never found to my knowledge. Since the robbers were minors, they were sentenced to juvenile detention center. I think the longest sentence out of the 3 was a year. When my mom and I found out, we were angry at grandma, and so was my aunt. There had been times in the past where my aunt and mom had struggled financially and could have used just a little money. But here, their mom was hoarding $30,000 that she could have used to help her daughters, but she didn't. And no, my cousin wasn't involved in the robbery. She had a bad boyfriend who did a bad thing, but it wasn't her fault. Anyways, I'm not sad this happened to her. I like to believe it's karma because of the rude way she treats not only other people, but her own family. Have any of you guys ever had something stolen from you? If so, what was it? Please let me know in the comments. And Karen, will you let our viewers know how they can get a special shout out in our next video? Join as a channel member today, or join us on Patreon, and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And if you'd like me to make a special video for you or a loved one, come visit us on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below. Entitled Mom thinks I'm faking my disorder to get attention. First of all, I'm diagnosed to autism and ADHD. To all who don't know what ADHD is, it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So I am distracted very easily, get emotional very fast, and do moves or make sounds I actually didn't want to make. Just to clarify that. Onto the story. It happened a couple of years ago. I was like 15. My mom sent me to the grocery store to grab some things because she was a little busy at home with her work. She works online for a designer company. So I grabbed a bag and went on my way to the store. At this time, I sometimes flinch and move my left shoulder very fast. As I said, I can't control or stop it, but me and my family were used to it because I've had those things since I was 4 or so. On my way to the store, I walked past a playground I never set foot on because I just moved here a few months ago. The playground was empty except for a mother and her kid. This is where Entitled Mom comes in. To clarify, we've got Entitled Mom, we've got me, we've got the innocent kid. So I walked past the playground where the entitled mom and her poor kid were playing. Well, innocent kid was. She was standing a bit away from her phone. As soon as she saw me making my shoulder and head move, she looked terrified and walked straight up to me. Entitled Mom. Excuse me? Yeah, she was shouting, even though she was like 5 meters away from me. Me. Yeah, can I help you? At this point, I got super nervous because ADHD and talking to strangers is really difficult to me. I tried to seem as normal as possible, but if I'm nervous, the moves I make are always getting more intense, which wasn't really helpful in this situation. Entitled Mom. Hey you, stop making those scary moves. You are terrifying my baby. She's pointing towards her kid, who's not even noticing his mom is somewhere else. Me. What do you mean? I can't stop that. Stop lying. My poor baby doesn't want idiots, not the word she used, near him and his mom. The kid was like 5. And of course, you can stop doing that. That looks terrible. Me. Wait, I can explain that. I was really trying to keep my voice calm. I have this syndrome, so my body parts move on their own sometimes. It's called I said stop lying. You just do those creepy moves to get attention. Attention of who? We were the only ones here, but whatever. If you don't stop, I will make you stop on my own. Now I was really annoyed and upset with her, but I still tried to be nice and calm. Me, I'm really sorry, lady, but this is called ADHD, and there are indeed people out here who have this disorder. This is only human, and you can't just say, she interrupted me again. Who do you think you are? You can't talk like that to a grown adult. Are you even old enough to be left alone? I don't think I looked that young, but okay. And I'd say, who's leaving their kid alone back there, huh? Me. Of course, but she didn't even let me speak. Wait till your parents hear about this. You're harassing me and traumatizing my kid. My move went faster and more often because I became nervous. I walked a few steps away from her. And stop doing that. I bet you're on drugs. I will talk to your parents. Where do you live? You better tell me. I am an adult, and your parents surely told you to respect the adults. I tried to stay polite, but I couldn't hold it back. Me, screaming. No! I'm not going to tell you where I live, and stop being such a jerk. That's all BS. I'm old enough to know what I'm doing, so leave me the heck alone. She was really confused from me talking like that to her. What? She instantly came back to her role. How dare you talk like that to an adult? She used the excuse very often of being an adult. Now stop that! She steps forward and grabs my arm very tight so I couldn't move it. I was shocked for a second and tried to get out of her grip. That only made her hold on tighter with both hands, screaming at me for what a jerk I was. It really hurt me and made me feel very nervous. I didn't know what I was doing, but I think I did this out of instinct or reflex. I literally grabbed her face with my flat hand and pushed her head back. She let go of me and stumbled back. Before she could say anything, I kicked dirt on her. Sorry, lady, I didn't mean to do that. I just did it. And I ran home as fast as I could. She shouted, I'm going to call the police. You will hear from me and my lawyer, you little jerk. Actually, I never heard from her again. She didn't follow me or call the police. I just have scars left on my arm from her nails, which make me remember this story. I didn't get the groceries this day and for the next few months. My mom didn't let me go near that playground for a few months. She didn't even have to do that. It wasn't my plan to go there anyways. The entitled mom wasn't seen there again, I don't think. We all know Karens do some horrible things, but accusing someone of faking their disorder to get attention? That's gotta be one of the worst we've read about so far. Honestly, I'm disappointed in my fellow Karens right now. Have you or anyone you know ever been accused of faking your disorder to get attention? If that were to happen to you, how would it make you feel? Please let us know in the comments below. Entitled Dad wants me fired for caring about the safety of his son. The cast. We've got me. We've got Entitled Dad. We've got Entitled Kid, who knows my boss. We'll call ADM, Assistant Duty Manager. My other boss, who we'll call DM, Duty Manager. And my coworker/boss. I'll explain the hierarchy in a minute. Who we'll call Rice, because she always ate rice in the break room. So I'm a lifeguard at a leisure center, and pretty much everyone who works there except the DMs are in the 16 to 22 age bracket. At the time, I was 17, Rice was 18, and Assistant Duty Manager was 22. Duty Manager was in his 30s. I promise, this is important. Little bit of important info, because most of us are so young, it makes people feel like they're allowed to talk down to us and play the respect your elders, or listen to me because I'm older than you card. I had this more often than others, because at the age of 17, I looked 14. So to the actual story. Rice and I were on poolside, and there was a session on where we get out all the large floats out, large enough for an adult to starfish on them. During the summer, this happened every day at the same 1-hour slot. One of the main rules about this session, due to the danger of it, is no standing on floats. It's extremely hard to balance on them, so people always fall off and could land on another person or on the side of the pool, etc. This is also the most commonly broken rule. So Entitled Dad and Entitled Kid turn up and walk straight to the deep end. I'm in the high lifeguard chair and Rice is patrolling, so they're right next to/under me. Entitled Dad tells Entitled Kid to dive in. I overhear and tell them not to. Entitled Dad kicks up a fuss when something like this. Entitled Dad, go on, dive in. Me, sorry, there's no diving here. Why not? Well, it's dangerous, and if not done correctly, he could seriously injure himself. He's just a kid. Let him do what he wants. You're too young to do anything about it. And if he gets hurt, it's my responsibility. Me. I'm sorry, I can't let that happen. And no, my job is to literally make sure everyone is kept safe. And if everyone is not, then it's my fault and my responsibility. If he dives in, that's your second warning. Second? For heck's sake, we just got here. Me. Your first was for being rude to me. I felt super cool for this bit. He scoffed, and entitled kid dived in. I said to him, "That's two." About 10 minutes go by, and they're using a large float, and the kid starts trying to stand on it. I blow my whistle. Whenever one of us has to use the whistle, the whole pool turns and looks. This happened. Everyone turned, except entitled kid and entitled dad. They obviously knew they were doing something wrong. I blew again, same thing happens. But by this point, the kid has stood up again and is now facing me. So I just looked at him and said loudly but calmly, "Don't stand on the floats." Normally, the third time we have to talk to someone, we kick them out. But I felt that would be a little harsh, so I decided that if I had to talk to them one more time, I'd kick them out. And that came faster than I thought. Entitled kid starts crying. Entitled dad death stares at me for like 5 minutes before he gets out and approaches me. "How dare you shout at my son like that? He's just a kid. You should be fired. You need to rethink your life. You're shouting at a 7-year-old. I look over at Rice, who's laughing her butt off, making it harder for me to try not to laugh. Entitled dad, "I'm gonna go complain to your boss. I'm a loyal customer here. I can get you fired. I cut him off. Me. "How dare you break the rules that it's my job to enforce and be so rude to me when I'm just looking out for your kid's safety? If we let him do whatever he wants, then he'd be on a stretcher in an ambulance by now. I've had enough of your crap. Please go get changed and leave the building." "I'll get you fired. Who's your boss?" So since I have the pick between ADM, DM, and Rice, I know full well which option is gonna annoy him the most, so I direct him to Rice. Entitled dad, "Aren't there any adults here?" Walks over to Rice. "Who's your boss?" Rice directs him to assistant duty manager, who's still too young for him to treat with respect, so she gets duty manager to deal with him. Entitled dad gives him some long speech about how I was so rude and aggressive towards him and threatened him, and he wants me fired. And if I'm not fired, he won't come back again. Duty manager agrees just to get rid of him. They were still talking by the time Rice and I were off poolside. Duty manager came into the staff room where assistant duty manager, Rice, and I were all waiting. Duty manager, "Never wanted to punch a jerk so much in my life." We all still laugh about it to this day. Speaking of pools, summer is almost here. How many of you are planning on hanging out at the pool? Oh, I love the pool. My favorite part is that I can go to the bathroom in it without getting out. Jerk thinks it's funny to yank out mailboxes. My dad makes him pay. Disclaimer, this happened a long time ago, but still makes me giggle to this day. So way back in the day, mid-90s or so, my family lived in a log cabin on 10 acres of land in a rural area 10 minutes or so out of town. It wasn't totally the sticks, but you could definitely hear banjo music in the background sometimes. At the end of our nearly 1/4 mile long driveway was one of those roads that was also technically a state highway. In the AM, I'd trudge down to wait for the bus. When I got home, I'd grab the mail and carry it back. Until one Monday morning when I went out and noticed the mailbox was gone. On closer inspection, looked like it had been ripped out of the ground. Dad was obviously not pleased. He went to talk with the county sheriff, who happened to live a mile down the road. Turns out it had been happening up and down the road for months. Someone was tossing a chain over mailboxes and yanking them out with their vehicle. He suspected a guy down the road with his great big lifted 4-wheel drive truck, but couldn't prove anything. Usually happened on Saturday and Sunday nights, with people finding out in the morning. Also seems the nicer the mailbox, the bigger a target, and many had been hit multiple times. People had tried digging deeper, using more durable wood, etc. This guy just took it as a challenge and ripped them out again. Soft, sandy ground, and his truck was a monster. Well, Dad said, challenge accepted. A bit about my father. He's a steelworker with an engineering background and graduate degree. Built like a bear with forearms the size of legs. Most people looking at him would never think this monster of a man is also so brilliant, but he is. The calm, cool type that almost never loses his temper. but wrong him and God help you. So Dad goes to Lowe's and buys the fanciest, prettiest mailbox they sell. He then proceeds to install it on top of an 8-foot long cylinder of 3-inch diameter hardened tool steel. But he wasn't done there. After digging down with post holers and dropping it in, he then filled it with quickset concrete. To really sell it, he used some strips of 1/2-inch wood to cover the steel core of his now indestructible mailbox of doom. Primed and painted them so it looked like a standard 4-inch post, and even had my mom decorate it with flowers and such. He wanted it to be as tempting of a target as possible. Didn't even take a week. I went out for school in the morning and found the mailbox right where it should be. Attached to it was 30 feet of chain and an entire hitch assembly, ripped right off of the truck's frame, sheared the bolts. It was marvelous to behold. Sheriff gets called over, dies laughing when he sees it. He went to the house of the guy that was suspected and sure enough verified the damage to his truck matched. Fun fact, messing with a mailbox is a federal crime, as in you go to federal prison, not those cushy state places. Dad was unofficially rewarded by the sheriff's department with a few cases of beer and some venison. And after that, every deputy in town would flash him a thumbs up whenever they saw him. Well, it sounds like that guy had to learn his lesson the hard way. Honestly, it was silly of him to use the truck. He should have just used a baseball bat to swing at it while driving by. That's how my son does it anyway. No, you can't open that without buying it. I've mentioned before that I worked at a toy store. I specifically worked in electronics for selling video games, systems, and whatnot. A popular item at the time was the new Nintendo DSi XL. One day, I had an elderly customer and who I presumed was his wife and daughter in tow. They approached my counter. My guess is that his daughter had a kid and was trying to help him purchase a present from Grandpa. Him. Let me see one of those things. Points at the DSi XL. Me. Oh, sure thing. I opened the glass cabinet and handed him the box. We had a lot of rules when letting people see electronics to ensure theft and tampering wasn't an issue, mostly for when taking stuff out of the case. We were to let them only see one item from the case at a time, even if it was a group, and watch them while they handled it, asking other customers to wait until we were done serving the customer we were with. Note, I did have someone immediately take off running out of the store the second I handed them one before, so I watched customers like a hawk after that. The man turned the box over in his hands twice and then immediately proceeded to try to take the tape off to open it. Me, quickly. Sir, you can't open that here. You have to purchase it if you want to open it. Him, angrily and loudly. Well, why not? Me, we don't sell items in the store that have been opened before. It's to ensure that the item hasn't been tampered with. Even when something is returned, it doesn't go back on our shelves. It goes back to the manufacturer. So if you open it, I can't sell it, even if you'd wanted to buy it, because then it will have already been opened. Him. Well, how do I know there's not a bunch of crap in the box? Me. There's not. If there somehow is, you can return it after you've bought it. If you're that worried about it, you can purchase it and open it here in front of me. If there's anything in that box other than what you paid for, I'll take you to returns and get your money back before you leave the store. By this point, I had taken the item back from him to make sure he didn't try to continue. Luckily, the packaging was still intact. Him. I used to work in one of those factories. I know they won't hesitate to put a bunch of junk in these boxes. At this point, I'm thinking, this says a lot more about your integrity than it does mine, but I keep that to myself. Me. I'm sorry, but I can't let you open this box. You can purchase it and then open it if you like, or choose to purchase it elsewhere. Him. Forget it. I don't want it anymore. Then they left, and I never saw them come back. Do any of you guys like to open up the package before you buy something? Oh, I always do. I won't buy anything without opening it first. Sometimes I just walk around the store opening things and leaving them there for fun. And you don't think that's inconsiderate at all? I don't know what that word means. Can't be visibly doing nothing. It affects employees' morale. No problem. My buddy and I were hired to be a glorified help desk support handholders for a special project. Senior management at a large corporation had their laptops upgraded, including new software they had never used and major upgrades of software they had previously used. We are talking maybe 20 people spread across 3 buildings downtown, all within walking distance of each other. My job was to sit in an office and take calls for any issue, and I mean any issue that pops into their head. The only thing more entitled than senior management are their admin people. My buddy's job was to actually go to their desk and hold their hand with whatever issue they had. Oh, and read the manual was not part of the support plan. He was great at it. After the first couple of weeks, things settled down and we received very few calls. So my buddy was sitting at some desk doing nothing. After a few days, one of the admin assistants complained that he was doing nothing, bad influence on those around him. We asked for a different desk, but none was to be found. He tried looking busy, writing up documentation. The same person complained, saying his job is support. So if he is not supporting, everyone knows he is doing nothing, and that looks bad. Bad for morale. What the heck? He technically doesn't even work for your company. So I realized that our service level agreement said we had to respond within 30 minutes. It was always much less, especially if he was in the building. So I told my buddy to buzz off, go shopping, sit in Starbucks and read the paper. No one but me knew where my buddy was at any time, and I was the only one who dispatched him. So I said to my buddy, do whatever you want, as long as you drop what you're doing and be at the person's desk within 30 minutes. And if they called for help, occasionally they would ask how long it would take. I would say, our SLA is 30 minutes. He will be there before then. And sometimes they would say, isn't he in the building? And whatever building the person was calling from, I would say he is in the other building furthest from them. And they would never check with anyone at the other building. They really had no way of knowing where he was, only I did. That was my job. So my buddy went to the movies, went clothes and shoe shopping, sat in the park, etc. The busybody admin assistant called about a problem one day and said, I never see him at his desk anymore. Where is he? I said, he is much busier now. His morale, and I'm sure your staff's morale, must be much better now. No one ever found out about our malicious compliance. The managers he helped loved him and wanted him to stay on. He said no until they tripled what he was making. About a year later, he was made a manager, and about 6 months after that, he had that admin assistant fired. The morale really improved around there after that. I know the rules better than you. I'm calling my lawyer. So, I am a director of a daycare. I've been the director for the last 8 years. This week, I've been dealing with an entitled mom who thinks she knows how to do my job better than I do. Her first problem was that we require all kids to be fully vaccinated, and she didn't want to vaccinate hers. I told her she could find care somewhere else. She complained that I was violating her personal beliefs and breaking the law. No, I'm not. We have the right to turn away personal exemption cases. She decided she would vaccinate, but only because I was forcing her to. Her second problem was that she didn't want to do the legwork to get tuition assistance from the state. She wants me to email DWS all her info and her kid's start date. I told her we don't do it that way. She needs to contact DWS to tell them her kid is attending, and then they will contact us to verify. She has yet to call them, but calls me every day, wondering why I haven't emailed DWS yet. Every day I tell her she needs to contact them. She gets mad and says that it's my job to email them. We've had this conversation every day this week. Her third problem just started last night. She now believes that she is making too much money to qualify for tuition assistance and wants her non-refundable registration fee refunded. I told her it's not refundable. She told me that I have to return it because her daughter might not be starting since I didn't do my job and contact the state. I reminded her it's her responsibility, and the contract she signed states the fee is not refundable. She told me I was reading the contract wrong. She said she will be talking to her lawyer about me breaking company rules and that I'm just picking on her because of her vaccination beliefs. I told her to be my guest, and I would be happy to talk to her lawyer about everything. She then told me we weren't good enough to take care of her angel and hung up on me. I'm glad I only had to deal with her for a week, but even a week was far too much. Edit to add. Her kid never actually attended because she never called DWS and got tuition assistance sent over to us. You know, Karen, your lawyer must really love you. You've always got new jobs for him.
Actually, I get the sense he doesn't like me and thinks I'm a complete idiot.
Well, gee, I wonder what could cause him to think something like that. Cheeseburgers can be very confusing. I work at a very large franchise fast food restaurant, and while most customers have no problem with their order, We get the occasional one that is baffled by the simplest of things. Take this one woman who wanted a hamburger. What she actually ordered was a cheeseburger, no cheese. I don't know how things are at other burger selling joints, but literally the only difference between a cheeseburger and a hamburger where I work is the cheese. Otherwise, they're identical. They have the exact same ingredients, so I put through a hamburger. If I put through a cheeseburger, no cheese, the kitchen would think I've lost it, and it doesn't, or shouldn't, make any difference to the customer. So her hamburger comes out and a wrapper that says hamburger. She takes it, pauses, and then turns back to me. Lady: sorry, but I ordered a cheeseburger, no cheese. Me: yes, sorry. A cheeseburger with no cheese is exactly the same as a hamburger, so I just put it through a hamburger.
I ordered a cheeseburger though, and the wrapper says hamburger.
Me: it's exactly the same though. The only difference between a cheeseburger and a hamburger is the cheese. Lady:
but this is not what I ordered.
Me: you wanted a cheeseburger, correct?
Yes.
But without the cheese, correct?
Yes.
Me, trying to be as polite as possible. Then that's what this is. A cheeseburger without the cheese is a hamburger. There's literally no difference. Lady:
but I didn't order a hamburger. I ordered a cheeseburger, no cheese.
Now I'm smiling through gritted teeth and have resigned myself to her stupidity. Me: 1 second and I'll just go change that for you. I literally went into the kitchen and got them to put the hamburger into a wrapper that said cheeseburger and whack a label on that said no cheese. Lady: thank you very much, dear. And she took the hamburger disguised as a cheeseburger, no cheese, and went on her merry way. Now, anytime a customer wants a cheeseburger, no cheese, we have to explain to them why the label says something else. Most of them get it, but give us really weird looks, as if we're stupid, or maybe they think we think they're stupid. Speaking of cheeseburgers, what's your favorite place to get cheeseburgers from? Please let me know in the comments below. I'd have to say mine is McDonald's.
Too bad they can never get your order right. Fortunately, all it takes is one call to the manager to get them fired.
Hey Karen, can you take a break from being evil and welcome our newest channel members?
Certainly. Huge shout out to our newest official channel members, Christian and Kayla. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as a channel member today or support us on Patreon and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And if you'd like me to record a video for you to prank your friends or family with, come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.
Entitled kid hurts my pet pig and mom kicks out his entitled family. This happened when I was 12 or 13. I had a pet pig who was very pink and very small, and I named him after a popular pork-flavored snack we have here in the Philippines called Marty's Cracklins. So I named him Marty, and he was very adorable, and he was only a baby pig at the time. He also had no other pigs to call family. I also taught him a lot of tricks. I kept him in a large cage just outside my room's window. I always took care of him, feeding him, cleaning his cage, and washing him, and always singing him my favorite song whenever I got a chance. One day, while I was washing Marty's cage while Marty stood patiently beside me, I hear new voices and a small truck park in front of the empty apartment that my parents put up so other people could rent it. The truck stopped and my parents walked over to greet the people. They seemed nice, at first. As soon as the truck stopped, 2 kids, 1 boy around my age, and a girl who was about 7 stepped out and looked around for a bit. They walked by me and saw Marty. The girl squealed in delight and tried to grab Marty, and Marty immediately squeezed by me so he could hide in the cage. I tell the girl to be quiet and tell her that Marty is not comfortable around strangers. She pouts, and the boy just drags her back to their family. I glared at their backs for scaring Marty, and I turned my attention towards my best friend, who was dirty inside a clean cage. I ushered Marty to come out, and I cleaned him and fed him and sang him several songs, including my favorite. Days passed, and I kept close to Marty as the girl and the boy bothered him and forced him to play with them. I told my parents about this, and they go over to the kids' parents and set them off with a warning. The parents understood, but the next day, the jerk still came back. Clearly, their parents did not care, even when Dad repeated the warning for a few times when the kids stepped past a line. A joyful day comes when some of my mom's friends from Davao came. They invited us on a road trip to Baguio, and that means Marty would be left alone. Although I did have some relatives that lived beside our house, they were all very busy, and so are my cousins, because they're either hanging out in a basketball court or in a mall, so Marty would be left alone. I voted to stay, but luckily, one of my cousins, who is such a sweetheart, told me that she'll take care of Marty and that I should just enjoy myself. I thanked her and warned her about the annoying kids, and she told me that she'll keep an eye out for them. We left for Baguio for 3 days, and when I came back, I was very excited to see Marty again. I went inside the house and made him a milk bottle, and I ran to his cage. What I saw made my heart break a bit. I tried to wake Marty, and he woke up. Sad thing is, he looked fatter, and he looked like he was sick, and he walked over to me slowly. I picked him up and comforted him. I tried giving him the bottle, but he moved his head away. I guessed that my cousin fed him already, so I just cradled him like a baby and sang to him. A few minutes or so, my cousin walked to me with a bottle in her hand. I looked at her confused and told her that Marty was still full from the milk she gave him earlier. My cousin said that she hasn't fed Marty yet. Then it dawned on me. The jerks must have done this. Marty was still a baby, and he couldn't stomach that much food, and his tummy already looks bloated, and he always took deep breaths rather than normal ones. I personally went over to the jerk's house and told them to stop bothering Marty. The entitled kid stayed silent, and entitled mom spoke up. I'll translate what she said in Tagalog to English. My kids didn't even go near him. Also, your parents told us to not bother that stinky pig of yours. This ticked me off a bit, because no one calls Marty stinky other than me. So I told her that if I catch her kids bothering Marty, I'll tell my parents to kick them out. So nightfall came, and I laid on my bed. Outside the window was Marty's cage, and I opened the window and looked below to see him sleeping. I sigh in relief when I saw him sleeping soundly, so I went to sleep. Not even a minute later, I hear a loud, scared squeal. I looked out the window to see the girl, entitled Kid 1, forcefully shoving a milk bottle into Marty's mouth. I told them to stop, and I climbed out my window and tried to pull her off, but entitled Kid 2, the boy around my age, kept pushing me back. I was skinny and a wimp back then, and I couldn't push past him. So I ran to my parents' windows and knocked on it, shouting their names. Dad opened up the window, and I cried out that they're hurting Marty. Dad went out of the house and walked angrily to the entitled kid's house while I tried to push entitled Kid 1 away from Marty, and entitled Kid 2 kept blocking me. By the time the entitled kid's parents came over, the squealing stopped. I saw Marty's face turn lifeless and dull, and I knew that I failed. The girl screeches and cries out that her pet pig died. This angered me, and for once in my life, I punched the jerk blocking me and took Marty and ran down the stone stairs behind our house to our backyard and hid in the trees. I heard my dad yelling at them and demanding them to move out tomorrow or he'll bring this to court. I kept crying and crying. My dad came down to see me but told me that Marty is safe now. He climbed back up to the house and I sat still for a while in the darkness. I stood up and went inside a tool shed and grabbed a shovel. And with each time I shoveled a piece of dirt, I kept saying I'm sorry to Marty. I really wished I was stronger, and I kept wishing that he's just playing dead like I taught him to. When the hole was deep enough, I sang my favorite song to my best friend one last time before I buried him. The next day, the entitled kid's family moved out, and we never heard from them again. And for a while, I was depressed and wished I could meet up with Marty again. I have no happy ending. I'm sorry, Marty. My heart really goes out to OP. Losing a pet is extremely difficult, and I can't even imagine if it was because of what some idiot had done to them. Have you ever lost a pet? If so, what was their name? Karen, would you mind giving us a quick PSA about pets?
Never touch or feed pets without their owner's permission.
Entitled mom threatens to get me fired if I don't fix her kids' grades. Background: I teach labs at a university level. I have a master's degree, and all the labs I teach are for engineers. We finished this course on Thursday, and I gave out the grades, submitted the course file, and that was that. I was pretty comfortable with the grades I gave. Given the situation, I didn't do an exam, but a project. Had dropped the lowest and graded while closing both eyes. Today at 2:13 a.m., my phone rings. I never have received a call that late, and in my haze to wake up, I thought someone had died or something, so I picked up in a rush, and then the following conversation happened. We've got entitled mom, and we've got me, the person who regrets being nice. Me. What's going on? Is everything okay? Entitled mom.
Hi, is this Dr. Barron?
Me. No, sorry, I believe you have the wrong number. I think you meant to call my brother. Note, my brother is a medical doctor. I am a master's student, not a PhD student. I do not hold the doctor title. Entitled mom.
No, this is the right number. You taught my kid this semester and gave him a B-.
Me. Oh, sorry, I got confused with being called a doctor. Yes, I taught your kid and he earned a B-. Excuse me, but how did you get my number?
That doesn't matter. I want you to fix the grade to an A. My kid worked hard, and you didn't grade him fairly. So I thought I'd be nice and give you an opportunity to fix it before I escalate.
Me. I will not discuss grades with you. Also, who calls at 2 a.m.? Besides, please contact the department chair for inquiries. Kindly don't contact me again.
Listen to me. If you don't fix the grade, I'll report you to the school for harassing my kid.
Me. What?
Ah, so I got your attention, eh? Yeah, you heard me. I'll report you for harassing my kid.
Me. You do realize we were in lockdown this entire time, and I have never been physically in the same place throughout this time, right?
Oh, I know that. I'm not stupid.
So you're going to make a fake report about me?
Yep, so fix the grade, or I'll have you thrown out of the school. Did you hear me?
You know I record my calls, right?
Forget you. I am reporting you for harassing me and my kid.
She hung up after. I forwarded the recorded call to my master advisor, school dean, and department chair. I explained everything in the email and went to sleep. Haven't heard anything official yet, but my master's advisor texted me that he heard the call and thinks she's insane. They haven't received a report or anything yet. After checking on the kid's work, he deserved a D. If she escalates this, I'll present his work and agree to correct his grade to a D. We'll update if I hear anything. Have any of you guys ever had your mom call the teacher to try to get your grade changed?
You say that like there's something wrong with it.
Entitled mom wants to find a boyfriend for her daughter on her own. The cast. We've got me. We've got cool friend. We've got entitled mom. We've got innocent daughter. Maybe she wasn't the nicest, but she wasn't entitled. And we've got the police officer. On to the backstory. Me and my friend, he's older than me. At this time, I was 16 and he was 17. Are big Dark Souls fans, and we wanted to go to the store to grab some Steam cards. We planned to buy both Dark Souls 3 DLCs and play them together at the same evening. So we went there and bought a €50 card each. We're from Europe. As we bought everything, we headed towards the Starbucks and enjoyed something. I don't remember what I bought. We sat on a bench with our snacks or coffee or whatever. Everything was fine. A few benches further, there was a mother and her daughter, which was like 16, 17, 18, guessed on her luck. Sorry, I'm bad at guessing ages. We didn't notice them because why should we? A few minutes later, we were done and wanted to go. As the daughter saw that we were about to leave, she stood up and headed towards us. Daughter. Hey, excuse me. Me. Yes? Cool friend. Can we help you? Daughter. Well, I saw you from back there and I thought you looked cute. I was wondering if I could get your number or we could grab a drink sometimes. I looked at cool friend and he looked at me. Cool friend. Which one of us did you mean? I had to laugh. Daughter. Of course, I meant you. She pointed towards cool friend. I stopped laughing. I think I might have just got roasted because of the of course. Cool friend. Oh, I'm sorry. I already have a girlfriend. I'm sorry. He didn't, but I think that's his way to say he's not interested. Daughter. Sorry for interrupting then. She smiled awkwardly and walked back to the bench where her mom was waiting and looking very curious. At this point, the story could have been over, but no. Entitled mom wants to show us that it's not over yet. She stood up. Her daughter was trying to hold her back. I think she already knew what was going to happen. I guess it's not the first time this has happened to her. My friend watched the whole situation and still stood there with crossed arms. She walked up to him, and this is where this story turns into an r/entitled parents post. Entitled mom.
Hey, excuse me?
She was faking a smile.
I was wondering why on earth did you just reject my daughter?
That's literally what she said. My friend was just looking at her. Cool friend. Well, as I told her, I have a girlfriend, and to be honest, I'm not interested in her.
Oh yeah? What does your friend,
I bet she didn't say the girl part on purpose,
have that my daughter doesn't have?
Cool friend. Well, I don't know. I don't know her. I don't even have to know, because I'm really happy now. She was looking confused. Like, how could anyone be happy without her daughter? At this point, her daughter joined and tried to stop her mom.
Mom, please stop this. You're embarrassing me. No, I'm not. I know what I'm doing. I just want the best for you. Just like this good-looking young man.
Cool friend and me looked at each other. Daughter.
Well, whatever. I'm not helping you out then. I'll take the bus home.
She walked away and left her mom alone with us. Her mom was looking quiet until she was gone. Cool friend. So, seems like your daughter doesn't want to get my number anymore, and my mind hasn't changed in the past 10 seconds. Are we done now? She turned her head quick and looked in his eyes.
Of course we aren't done now. My angel deserves somebody like you, and you should make her happy. Forget this other girl.
I was just standing there, like an unimportant side character, so I felt like saying something even though I didn't want to. Me. Miss, you can't just come up and force somebody to love someone else. If he's happy, you can't make him like your daughter. That is not how love works. She never noticed my tics, but she didn't really look at me. She was just focused on cool friend. Glad about that. She totally ignored what I said. Instead,
who do you think you are? Didn't you learn to not interrupt when adults are talking?
It's happening too often that people think I'm younger than I really am. Me. I'm sorry. Him and I are almost the same age. And didn't you even listen? I want you to leave us alone now. Cool friend. I'd appreciate if you did so, and we can go home now. It's already later than we intended to be.
What? No. Being late is so unimportant to the fact that you refused my daughter. Why the heck would you do that? Now give me your number, now.
My friend was shaking his head. She came close to him, so only we could hear what she said. She put her hand on his shoulder.
Listen here, you just give me your number, and I won't call the police. Or else you will be arrested for harassing a mother and her kid. Did you get all that, you idiots?
Her voice was pretty calm now, as if she thought she had already won and her plan was 100% going to work. My friend removes her hand from his shoulder. No, listen, I won't. She was doing what she said, and she did very, very loud.
Help! Leave me alone, you jerk!
Cool friend was still calm. How did he do that? Everyone else around here is now watching the scene. A shop guard came up and separated us. Then he was asking questions to her that we couldn't hear. I didn't know what she was saying, but she was pointing towards us the whole time. They must have called the cops, because we were watched by another shop guard until the police arrived. Officer. Hello, sir. This woman over here said you two were insulting and trying to assault her. She told us her daughter fled and that you're trying to blame her now. So what is your point of view of the story? Is that true? Cool friend. Huh? That's brave of her. I'm just gonna say everything she said is a lie. I did absolutely nothing and my friend did neither. I don't have to say anything because I think you can just check the security cameras in the shop here. That's what they did. And who would have thought? In a nearby bookshop, you can clearly see in the camera footage how my friend didn't even make a real move, and she's calling the cops telling them lies about us. Officer. Ma'am, as you can see, we have to take you with us for a false police alert and harassing two innocent people.
What? No. Do your job. Arrest them. They did everything.
Officer. Ma'am, as we said, we have proof that the only one doing anything was you. Will you now come with us? We will settle everything if you just do as we please.
No, I can't do anything if the wrong people are blamed.
She looked at us.
Forget you.
Officer and his partner immediately took her and brought them to their car. Before she got into the car, my friend looked at her and said loudly, I'm single, by the way. Have a nice day. Entitled mom said something that I don't have to mention. We just went home after we apologized for her behavior to the people around us. Well, we had a good laugh after that, especially because we came over an hour late home and we had to tell this story to our parents. I think nobody would believe this if they hadn't been there too. Later on, we started playing our Dark Souls 3 DLCs, and I lost 100 more times than Cool Friend. Have any of you guys ever had your parents try to get you a boyfriend or a girlfriend? I can only imagine how embarrassing that would feel.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm constantly trying to get girls to date my son.
And has that ever worked?
Not yet, but hopefully soon.
Roommate thought she was sneaky, ended up owing me $400 and got suspended. So this happened my second semester dorming at my college campus. I had met my roommates at orientation and I could kind of already tell she was going to be a pain in the butt. And I was right about that. I had planned on moving rooms to be closer to some friends the next semester. But let me get to the story that led to my revenge. On our campus, you had to pay for meals using your student ID, which had a certain amount of money on it each semester. You could also use an app that you put your name and ID info into, and it makes it easier to pay. But the name and ID must match it for it to work. Will be important later. Any funds from the fall semester would roll over into the spring, but then at the end of spring it would just expire. Because of this, and because I only ate once or twice a day, I had saved up a ton on my card. My roommate, on the other hand, did not. So I offered to pay for some of her meals from time to time and trade for her picking up the food for us, which involved her using my card twice in person and then she'd return it. Then, one day, I noticed on my app that my card was being charged even when I was not ordering food, and not just a meal, like a meal for several people. This meant that whoever was ordering, I wonder who, either had to have stolen my ID card, which I had in my pocket when I got the charge, or was impersonating my info in the app, which are both big no-nos on my campus. I was quick to put two and two together and was pretty upset. I was initially going to confront her on it, but decided to formulate a plan instead. That day, I went and ordered a second ID card for $25 to use for later, as it took a couple of weeks to get the new one. I let her charge several things to my card over a good 2 weeks, for her and her friends. And she wasn't very good at hiding it either, as they would come to our dorm room and eat it. While I just screenshotted and sent emails to the support team of the app about the charges, knowing nothing would get done until I contacted someone in person. And one day, it got even better. As you can buy groceries with the card off campus as well, she decided to pay for alcohol with my card, which doesn't get pinged as an issue on my card due to me being over 21, but she was only 19. Not sure how she got it, but it was just the thing to finally act on my plan. I put my best sad face on and contacted the head of campus living and head of my dorm about the charges on my account. I dropped some hints that it could be my roommate and mentioned I got a new ID and asked what I should do. I was told to order a new card and once I got it, to deactivate my current ID and use the new one for purchases now, making my old ID have a balance of $0 and also to ping if someone uses it to buy anything. They also told me they would be visiting my dorm to discuss the issue with my roommate. I accepted that and waited. They sent the confirmation email that they would be visiting and I just decided to add more fuel to the fire. My roommate was groaning about not having the funds for food in front of me in our dorm. I told her I really couldn't help her as I was running low on funds and she just kind of laughed it off and left the room to probably go use my old ID. I deactivated my first card right after she left and surprise, surprise, she used my info to pay. Except when she tried to pay for her and her friends this time, it was declined and it pinged that my ID was used. Campus security was called and she was escorted back to our dorm. Pretty much perfect timing for our meeting with campus living. She was scared when they came to the dorm to talk and look through her stuff. On her phone, still logged into the app, was my ID information and name, and in her dorm closet was a half-full bottle of cheap vodka, and on my phone was a screenshot of said unauthorized vodka purchase. In the end, she was forced to pay me back all the funds she used in cash, reported for drinking, which automatically suspends you from campus living for at least a year, and would have on her record that she performed identity theft, which I also could have charged her for that out of school. In the end, I got to have my own dorm for the remainder of that semester and even part of the semester after, because it wasn't put as an available room for new dormers. I did get all my money back from her parents, who were so embarrassed and apologized profusely, and when she did eventually come back to campus, no one wanted to dorm with her because they knew she had stolen her roommate's ID. I think in the end, she rented off campus. Nothing better than a thief getting caught. Has anybody ever stolen anything from you? If so, what did you do about it? Please let me know in the comments. Take me out of your group text. Years ago, before chat apps, where you can seamlessly set up a group chat with lots of people were common, group texts were how people communicated when you wanted to reach a lot of people at once and wanted them to see it because no one checked their email regularly. It was not ideal, as depending on people's quality of service, quality of phone, or just how many people were trying to send a text, and Lord forbid a picture at the same time. Text showed up out of order and sometimes took hours for some to receive them. You'd be surprised how much receiving a bunch of texts would drain your battery as well. It was during this time that my partner, then still a friend, was accidentally added to a text group full of 15 or so soccer moms and the coach because whoever set it up mistyped one of the moms' phone numbers. Oh yeah, another drawback of text groups, you had to put in every number by hand if you didn't already have them registered in your phone. It was more of a primitive time. They were quick to bring up that they mistyped a number and that they needed to make another one, this time including the mom that got left out when they mistakenly put in the wrong number. The mistake was acknowledged, but they kept on sending texts like, "It's too hard to make a new one. Just silence your phone. This is a necessary group text for our kids," etc. Oh, another drawback. Man, there were a lot. You couldn't take yourself out of a group text back then, and blocking numbers wasn't an option on all cell phone carriers or plans. My future partner started getting really upset, and their phone kept on ringing throughout the day and didn't know if someone was trying to get a hold of them or if it was the soccer moms. They made their anger known and used some colorful language questioning their intelligence and humanity and demanding that they stop using that group text. Apparently, some of the moms missed the initial text saying that they were not one of the soccer moms. They responded with, "Do you speak to your son like that? You should be banned from the field." "It's okay, coach. Some of us appreciate what you do." This had been going on for 3 days, and the soccer moms kept on using the chat, which has now devolved into calling my partner rude. So they escalated their response. They Googled cat autopsy pictures and started spamming it to the chat. The soccer moms were horrified and threw a fit.
"How dare you, you sick jerk. This is harassment,"
were among the texts sent to the group. Every time one of the moms demanded they stop, all they said was, "Take me out of the group," and only that, followed by more cat autopsy pictures. It lasted a couple of hours, and they admitted later that the group text finally started getting fun, but they seemed to abandon the group text. No idea if they felt starting another one was worth it, but at least they didn't mistakenly put my partner's phone number in. It truly was a more primitive time. I remember group texts and I hated them.
"If you have such a problem with group text, just don't look at it."
Costco Karen. I work in an office with fairly high security. We have to wear a lanyard that says staff when we're at the office with our picture and name tag attached to it. I tend to be a pretty forgetful person, so I wear mine all the time and only remove it once I get home and put it on a hook beside the door so I know I won't forget it. I also usually go shopping after work. So one day I'm at Costco doing my shopping and I run over to another aisle, and as I realized I got the wrong types of something or other from the frozen section. So I exchange them and I'm walking back towards where my boyfriend is with the cart. Then I hear fingers snapping and a woman calling, "Here, here." I turn around because I'm curious and lock eyes with her, and she gestures me over. I don't recognize her, but I also don't want to be rude, so I go over. She's on her phone. "Can I help you?" I asked her.
"How much is this?"
"I don't know," I told her, kind of confused as to why she's asking me. She looks at me like I'm an idiot, her eyes bulging out.
"I'm on the phone,"
she says. I'm just standing there holding my mini quiches or whatever, wondering why she called me over and who she is. I'm also wondering why she's telling me that she's on the phone when I can see that perfectly well. "Okay," I tell her, and start turning around to walk away. She starts tutting, which I'm really confused by, and I turn back around. She's looking at me expectantly, and honestly, I've been working all day, and this is confusing the heck out of me, so I just tell myself to ignore her, and I start walking away again. She does a weird tut hissing sound, but I ignore her and keep walking away. She runs up to me with her cart and taps me on the shoulder.
"Why aren't you helping me?"
She screams at me. "Why would I help you?" I ask her. I'm genuinely so confused by this entire interaction. She points to my lanyard that says staff, and it finally clicks into place. "Oh," I say, "I don't work here." I swear, the look on her face, she was horrified. She apologized to me like 6 times, and I was finally able to go back to my boyfriend where he told me I got the wrong thing from the frozen section again. Oops. Speaking of Costco, where do you guys like to get your groceries? Please let me know.
Costco is okay. I prefer Target.
Are you blind or stupid? Apparently both. First-time poster, long-time reader. English is my second language, so feel free to correct me. On mobile. Hope Mr. Reddit sees this and hope you enjoy. Meet the cast. We've got me, Karen, and the manager. This happened last week, third month into lockdown in my country. Had a long and overall crappy day with events that will be revealed later. I decided to go to a market to get some supplies for the upcoming shift. I had a full day shift that day, and on my phone talking to my superior asking what they need from the store. Went into the chips section and picking up about 4 packets of chips and started to walk away when I heard the infamous throat clearing that can only come from the guardian of heck herself, Karen. Thinking to myself, I can't be this unlucky today. Turning around to a 5'2" woman around 45 years old. Conversation ensues. Me, can I help you?
Yes. Where is this item?
Me, I think it's 2 aisles over.
How could you not know? Why does this store even hire idiots like you?
I'm sorry, but I have to know. Are you blind or stupid by chance?
How dare you call me blind?
Storming off, thinking it was the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. She came back with a manager in tow, looking smug. She sees me on my phone, so grabs my phone and threw it on the ground. The same phone I'm using to type this out, just with the screen replaced. The manager comes up to me, and realization sets in for him, and he understands how bad the situation is at this point. Me, turning to the manager. Get why I called her blind? Manager, looking at me as his face turns from confusion to containing his laugh. Props to him. He kept professional even when I had a hard time keeping quiet. Ma'am, this man clearly doesn't work here.
Then why is he in a uniform?
Me. Ma'am, take a hard look at me from head to toe and then ask again. Karen, looking at my uniform and face turning from red to as pale as printing paper. Context. My uniform is a dark blue beret, dark blue button-up, dark blue pants, and the piece of resistance, my belt that had my sidearm holster with my sidearms clearly inside, a taser, handcuff holster, and spare magazine holsters all on my belt along with my M4 slung on my neck. I'm an officer who literally got off a tragic case and getting snacks for my teammates. Me. Seeing your reaction, literal gold, if only I could release the body cam footage. I'm going to give you 2 options right now. Pay me back what my phone cost, or I'm going to arrest you for harassment, theft of property, and damages to property. Karen, now realizing what she had done, turned tail and ran. Of course, I had no choice but to chase and tackle her. She was able to get loose for that split second and uses her chance to take a box of cereal, I kid you not, and attacked me, so I tased her and cuffed her. Called in a unit nearby, cause even after handcuffed, she's still fighting back, kicking, headbutting, and even when her ankles were cuffed, she tried to get away like a cartoon caterpillar. Eventually, my partner shows up and uses a boar cuff, a type of cuff that, once done properly, will force the suspect's arms and legs to be bound like natives taking a boar, hence the name, to subdue her, and it took both of us just to get her in the cruiser. Tired of this, I just told my partner to explain her rights to her, and I walked back into the store and got all the things I need, paid, and left. She was a repeat offender, so this event just added to her previous charges. She's booked for court tomorrow. I'll post the results, but I can bet it's going to be guilty on all charges. Well, it looks like Karen got busted. That's always good news.
She did nothing wrong.
And along with that, we've got some more good news. Karen?
Huge shout out to our newest channel members, Ruby Uwu and Enderized, and to our newest supporter on Patreon, Sabiha. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as a channel member today or become a patron, and we'll give you a special shout out on our next video. And if you'd like me to make a video for you reading your script, come visit us on Fiverr. Links pinned in the comments below.
My mom forced me to let her into my psychiatrist appointment because she was worried what I'd say about her. Background. I'm a 21-year-old on a high amount of meds for epilepsy, and I dropped out of college to deal with my medical issues since I used to have a seizure once a week. I'm currently going to a community college to transfer to a better university in a different major, so I will graduate 2 years later than all my classmates. So I was talking to my psychiatrist on video chat since I couldn't go to the hospital. Since this is a first appointment, he is asking some basic questions like, do you hear voices, or have you had thoughts of self-harm type things? I answer honestly. I mention my mother and family issues, like how my mother and father have been fighting since I was born, and blame me for their deteriorating relationship. Me. Oh, and my mom tends to insult me a lot, calling me a failure and names because I'm going to a community college right now. I also have anger issues, and after she screams and calls me swear words and phrases over 40 times in a minute, I counted, I wasn't lying, for more than a minute while I helped her for 2 hours, then slapped me twice hard for stepping on something. I forgot what. So, enraged, I pinched her forehead, tried to lightly slap her cheek, and stormed off. Me, panicking. Wait, please don't tell the police or anyone what I've done. Psychiatrist. It seems like we need to talk again. Don't worry though, we want to help you. We won't tell anyone what you or your mother have done. I mentioned it to my mom, one thing over a 2-hour session, and it was a huge mistake. Mom.
How could you tell them something like that, you narcissist? What's wrong with you?
Me. But I sent you what I said exactly.
You're a liar. Nothing you say is true. You're the last person I would trust.
Me. Mom, I'm sorry, but I don't lie. I tell what I did and what you did no matter what. And they said, Mom.
Don't you dare call me Mom, you dumb idiot. You're lucky to be living with me at 22.
I'm 21.
All your classmates and friends are graduating 2 years before you.
Me. I'm sorry. I won't mention you again. Mom rants and raves.
You never stop talking or starting arguments. You could have got me arrested. Well, I'll get you arrested, you jerk. Now make sure I'm in your next appointment, or I won't let you see your psychiatrist.
Me. But, Mom.
Shut up and only talk to them about your anger issues, you useless jerk failure. God, how can you still be talking about your family at 22?
Me. I mean, it's not like
Your brother is 30 and doesn't complain or argue with me.
Me. Silent, even though I know that's not true. If my mom insults him when he visits, he will leave the house and go to his apartment immediately. Then, depending on how she acted, come back later. Also, my mom is comparing me to my brother, who is 9 years older with no medical issues, but he lived at home until he was 26 and got his first CS job. Mom insults me for another hour, then is quiet. Edit. My mom and I get along so well for like 2 days, and for 3 days there's nothing really. But 2 days later, it's like this. Second edit. Thank you for the advice and kindness, everyone. But most of all, I never realized how supportive and caring an online community could be until this post. I really appreciate it. Edit for clarification. Next year, I'm transferring to an out-of-state university, so she won't have to contact me unless she wants to, which will probably be rarely. But yeah, as long as I deal with her a little longer, next year I'll transfer out of state for the rest of my undergrad. My heart really goes out to OP. Most of us can't really imagine what it would feel like to have parents treat you like this. But unfortunately, it happens all the time. I'm glad that they have their psychiatrist to talk to about it though. Sometimes having someone to talk to about things you're going through makes all the difference. Entitled Mom stops an ambulance from getting to a heart attack patient. This happened at the end of last summer, and I wasn't within earshot for most of it, so I can't give great detail as to what exactly was said, but I'll try my best. Background. I work at a summer day camp, and everyone is like a family there. I went to the camp myself from age 6 to 15 before working there. The staff usually are rehired when possible, especially directors, so returning campers see the same faces every year, so some of the younger staff have known the veteran staff for almost our entire lives. That's why it is very common for the camp counselors to have been campers once themselves, like me. This is important to remember, as those involved in this story include both 2 veteran staff and multiple former campers, now counselors, including me. Okay, now to the story. It's the very last day of camp for the summer. All of the campers have said their goodbyes and have left on their respective buses. The only people left are the staff and the kids who are in the aftercare program for kids whose parents either work late or they need to be picked up from camp directly. There's almost no parking, not even enough for staff, so they bus the kids in every day. The staff wrap up their last staff meeting for the season, and we all make our way to the front of camp. One of the counselors, who was I think 2 years older than me, Carter, ran up ahead because the lunch lady, Chris, was about to leave and wanted to say goodbye. As we were rounding the corner, we hear Carter call out for Chris, and she is laying on the ground. Everyone is ushered into the bus that was going to take us to where the staff parking was, while one of the directors calls the ambulance. Carter is in tears. He was especially close to Chris. Not to mention, this is the second veteran staff member to be hospitalized that summer. He tells us that he had just said goodbye and turned to walk away when he glanced back. She was on the ground and not responding. Chris was a bit of a bigger woman, so everyone was worried about if the CPR would be successful, since the only people there were very small build. Thankfully, another vet staff arrived and he was able to take over CPR, which we later discovered if it wasn't for him, she would have died. So the ambulance is on the way, but the problem was that the road the camp is on is a major road in our city, and it was right during afternoon traffic rush. Not to mention, the street was having construction done, which turned it into a 2-lane street. Then a small car pulls up, and it's a mom looking to pick up her kid. One of the staff is quick to tell her to pull off to the side. The driveway is very narrow and can barely fit one bus at a time. She is understanding and gets out of the way. She even gets out and tries to talk to the staff who are waiting on the bus. I believe she even tried calming some of us down. One of the directors drove a golf cart to go get her kid, so she waited there with us. Enter entitled parent. I'm not 100% sure if she was a Karen or just someone who was a bit dense, but she still nearly caused a woman to lose her life. This big black SUV pulls up, and already she sees that something is off. Being the intelligent person she is, she stops her vehicle in the middle of the driveway and asks what's going on. Again, she is being directed to park off to the side, but she doesn't want to move. The lady just sits there and tells a staff worker that she is there to pick up her kid. Note, Chris collapsed right in front of the entrance to camp, so this woman had a front row view of people performing CPR on her. She doesn't have your typical Karen voice, but still, she isn't moving and keeps asking what was going on. It had been a few minutes now, and you could faintly hear sirens in the distance. The ambulance was near, and this woman was still blocking the only way into the camp. At this point, I storm out of the bus and run over to her. By this time, Carter has noticed the SUV and has made his way from staying next to Chris to getting up in this woman's face and just goes to town on her. I can't remember what he says, and it didn't help that he was screaming through his tears, but the lady eventually got the hint and went off to the side. I was ushered back into the bus, this time Carter following behind me. Once we are inside, he just breaks down. I'm still in shock when I hear something from next to the bus. Remember that other mother from before? Well, now Karen was drilling her about what was happening. The first mother, not knowing fully, tried to calmly explain the situation as best as she could. Then the Karen turns to the bus full of crying 20-year-olds. She is right outside my window, but as I am a lower rank, she addresses one of the other staff.
I am here to pick up my son.
I'm sorry, miss, but we're kind of dealing with something. If you could wait.
Why am I parked over here? This isn't the pickup. Why won't you let me go pick up my son?
Note, Chris had collapsed in the road that runs through camp. There was no way to get any vehicle other than a golf cart into the main camp because they were trying to save a woman's life. The director of the camp comes over and explains this to her, but Karen isn't having it.
I want my son. He is scared. Let me go get my son.
Ma'am, we can send for your son, but are you sure you want him to be here to see this? By now, the ambulance has arrived. They actually got into camp easily considering the construction. We are ever grateful, as it turns out they arrived just in time.
I don't care. I want my son now.
A few minutes later, a golf cart pulls up with both moms' kids in it. The first mom ushers her kid into the car and gives him something to keep him entertained as to hopefully distract him from what is happening. Then the Karen gets in her car and tells her kid to do the same. Karen starts her car and tries to leave. By now, there are 3 police, a fire truck, and an ambulance in single file along the driveway. There is no way Karen is getting out. I see Karen sigh and gets out of her car. She goes back to the director and tells him that she needs to leave. He looks at her, looks at the driveway, clearly not knowing how to respond. He tells her that they can't just move the ambulance and other first responders' vehicles just so she can leave. She huffs and crosses her arms. Their exchange continues for another few minutes until a police officer has to come over and tell the woman to get in her car and stay there. She had been trying to follow the director as he tried to leave the conversation, as to give a statement as to what had happened. The mom reluctantly went into her car and spent the next 10 minutes getting death glares from a bus full of at least 50-something upset staff. Have any of you ever been to some sort of a camp? And if so, did you like it? Please let me know. I'm not in the military. Shove off. This was years ago. My husband was in the Army on his second enlistment, 5 or 6 years total at this point. He had already been through a couple deployments by this point. We were at a new base overseas, and I had gotten a job at the after-school care facility on post. Well, his unit was getting ready to deploy for 6 months, so they were in the thick of all that. The chaplain was having a pre-deployment meeting for all the spouses to talk about the changes to expect while our spouses are deployed, from practical issues to emotional stuff to disruptions in routine. Bear in mind, this was back when if you were really lucky, you maybe got a 10-minute call from your spouse once a month, maybe an email as well. Letters were still more common than anything. Now, both my husband and I are pretty easygoing, and we had both been through a couple deployments, so I already knew the drill, what to expect, how to manage, etc. So I decided not to bother with the meeting. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a fantastic resource for spouses, and they would do a post-deployment one as well to help everyone transition back to normal life with their spouses, but I didn't feel the need to attend. A couple days later, my husband shows up at my workplace and tells me he's been ordered by his lieutenant to bring me to the spouse meeting. This was a second lieutenant who was fresh out of OCS, was not prior enlisted, and my husband had socks older than this guy's term of military service. For those who don't know, a second lieutenant is the lowest ranked officer. They're the noobs, and it's very common for them to think they know it all and act accordingly. This guy was one of those. I was highly peeved, but not for one moment did I blame my husband. I could tell he was annoyed as well, and I knew that since it was a direct order that he had to obey it. I thought for a minute and asked him to hang on a minute so I could talk to my boss. Now, school was set to let out soon, and they needed me there because of adult/kid ratio requirements. But I explained the situation to my boss and told her I'd be back as soon as possible. She understood the situation and said she'd fill in for me until I could get back. She was cool that way, and everyone on base, if they weren't military, was the spouse of one due to being on an overseas base, so they all knew and understood when stuff like this came up. Very rarely you'd get the random GS employee civilian on post, but yeah, that was highly unusual. So I left with my husband, but instead of going to the chaplain's meeting, I told him to take me to his building where the second lieutenant was. He knew what I was up to and happily complied. Arrived at the lieutenant's office, knocked and went in while my husband stood in the hall. Asked him why he had ordered my husband to fetch me from my job that I was needed at. He rather pompously mansplained to me that this was a required function and that I needed to attend. Oh, I let him have it. I didn't raise my voice much, but I informed him in no uncertain terms that he had no authority whatsoever to order me to do anything. I was not in the military, not subject to his whims, and while he may be able to order my husband to come get me, he could not order me to go to this meeting. He tried interjecting at this point to say that I needed to go so that I would learn stuff about how to handle my husband being on a deployment. At this point, I nearly blew my top. I've spent more time with my husband being in the field and on deployments than you've spent in the military. My husband does not own me, he cannot force me to do anything, and neither can you. I will not be attending this meeting, and you will not force my husband to take me there. I'm going back to my job, and if I hear that you tried to make his life miserable because of it, so help me, I will go up your chain of command and make sure you regret it. Now, the building was not full, but it wasn't quite empty either. Oh, and the higher-ups were in their offices pretty close by. They were also super cool cats. My husband might have been enlisted, but they respected the work he did, and he respected them. And this lieutenant had been getting on their nerves as well. So yeah, they absolutely could hear what was going on, and I'm sure they enjoyed it. By the end of my tirade, the second lieutenant was nearly falling over himself to apologize. Sorry, ma'am. I apologize, ma'am. It won't happen again, ma'am. He knew he was in the wrong, and by this point, he also knew I'd make a right royal stink if he tried to make me do anything or tried to punish my husband for my actions, or lack thereof. I left, and my husband took me back to my job, grinning like a fool. I was still pretty enraged at this point, but was cooling off pretty rapidly. For a few weeks afterward, I actually was concerned that there might be fallout from my husband because of what I did, but there wasn't. At least not more than the usual BS he dealt with on a daily basis. It was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. Like I said, I'm pretty laid back normally, but I will get steamed on other people's behalf. The problem is that I almost never have the opportunity or the right to get involved, and I recognize that sometimes doing so would definitely make bad worse. So having this opportunity was just golden. Sounds like she really taught that second lieutenant a lesson, eh, Karen?
That was okay. I would have spoken to his manager.
Karen won't move, so my electric wheelchair will move Karen. You know those inconsiderate people that congregate in a high-traffic area in a shop or a public area and are oblivious that they're in the way? And when a tap on the shoulder and, "excuse me," goes unnoticed? This was one of those occasions. Only they didn't account for me and my power wheelchair. My electric wheelchair is very powerful. I can easily drag heavy objects across the floor. As long as it's not bolted to the floor, I can move it. This includes people. I'm not a violent or dangerous person, and I would never intentionally hurt someone with my chair. But that's not to say I'm afraid to show dominance or authority in certain situations if needed. This happened late last year. I had a few things to do downtown and a bit of shopping to get done. I went to my local grocery store, Woolies for my fellow yobos out there, to pick up the essentials. After I finished in the deli, I went in search of coffee and cat food, but as I rounded the corner, I saw about 6 people in a circle having a conversation and blocking the walkway. To their left was a wall, and to their right was a stocked shelf, and there was no way to go through them. Me. "Excuse me." Ignored. Me. Louder. "Excuse me." Ignored. I tapped one of them firmly on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me," again. Nothing. Instead of admitting defeat and going to the back of the store to get what I wanted, I'm stubborn. I wanted them to move so I could get past. I lightly tapped the back of the leg of one of them with the front of my power chair in hopes of getting their attention. Let's call her Karen. No luck there either. So I kept easing my chair slowly forward, making sure I wasn't running over her foot or hurting her in the process. I edged her forward a few inches before she finally noticed I was there. Karen.
OMG, what are you doing?
Me. Can I please get past?
What? Can't you see we're having a conversation? How dare you interrupt us? You're lucky I don't press charges for you running into me. Didn't your mom teach you better than that?
Me, slightly amused. My mom couldn't teach a fish to swim, but if she was here, she would have pushed you all out of her way already. I was being polite by asking you nicely to move, but clearly you're too wrapped up in your important conversation to acknowledge anyone else but yourselves. So I will ask you one last time. Will you please move aside so I can get past? By this point, their conversation stopped and they were all glaring at me like I was the rude one for wanting to get past them. Karen.
You should have waited for us to finish our conversation and not interrupted us. Kids these days.
I'm 29, so not a kid, but either way, respect is earned, not given. Me. You're in a public place, and you're blocking this area for everyone. Please be more respectful and considerate to everyone else, and maybe have your important conversation somewhere else. Just a suggestion. There was enough of a gap for me to escape through, so I took it. I could hear Karen and her cronies muttering something insulting as I was leaving, but I didn't feel like hanging around to hear it. Karen clearly had his stick up her pipes, and I didn't want to push it. Who knows what a wild Karen would do? Nothing else happened after that. I finished my shopping and went on my way. I know I didn't push my chair hard enough to hurt her, so please don't come at me about that. Karen was fine. Well, as fine as a Karen can get. The moral of the story: don't block a public space with your social gathering. Do it in an area that's big enough to do so. I'm sure you've seen people do this, and if you're one of them, shame on you.
I'll never understand why some people just love standing in your way. And I'll never understand why you expect us to move.
Facility closes at 8 sharp. I used to work at a drive-up storage facility. We had pretty cheap prices and a few deals, so we got 3 types of people renting: normal people, business people, and homeless/jobless people who try to live out of a storage unit and stay in the facility most of the day, rearranging their storage unit so they had an excuse to stay. Now, our story begins with the normal people, unfortunately. Most normal people are normal, as you would think. They are moving, need a place to store stuff. Most of the time, they aren't happy with moving, and that makes sense. I try to be patient and kind. One facility rule that owners had me enforce was that we need to kick everyone out of the facility at 8 sharp. No exceptions. The office closes before then, and my job was to drive back at 8 every night and check the whole facility. By the way, I'm not on the clock for time. I'm supposed to just do a security check. Enter a family with an older lady and her daughter renting a unit. They were easy to work with. I respect elders a lot, so I usually try to be extra friendly to older people. Move-in day. They had a big old truck full of stuff. It looked like a lot of the stuff was going to be stacked in the unit. Of course, when I come back later that night, they're still there unloading stuff. They had a bunch of guys helping them. I drive up and remind them of the rules. They must be out by 8.
But we are almost done. We can get more in. Just need a few minutes.
With previous experience, I knew how this was going to go. I repeated the rules and told them they also signed a contract that they'd obey these rules, but I said I'd check the rest of the facility first so they could wrap up. They said thank you. I finish and drive to the front, and of course, they aren't there. I get out of my car and walk over to them, and they're still going strong unloading. So I decide to pressure a little and walk over and let them know once again the facility is closed. I stand next to them for 30 minutes. They finally decide they aren't going to finish tonight and pack up. 50 minutes after the facility closed, I let them out of the gate and went home at 9. Now, my boss caught wind of this. My boss was a real stickler for rules and stuff. He kinda had a notion that people would follow contract rules if they were enforced, but I knew people would just push our limits. My boss told me that we needed to keep the gate locked after closing time and we can't have people staying late. I didn't want to stay that late either. The next day they came back, late. They got there as the office was closing in the evening to continue unloading. I really hoped they got the message the first time, but lo and behold, when I came for the security check, they were there unloading what seemed to be a new load. I wasn't as patient with them this time. I wasn't rude, but I was definitely being more blunt with how I talked to them. I let them know again that they needed to leave immediately.
Okay, we are just finishing up.
I had heard that one before. This time I circled the unit block they were at, and every time I passed, I let them know I was done with the rest of the facility. They seemed to get the picture, but the clock still was ticking, and by the time they closed the unit and I tailgated their truck out of there, it had already been another 40 minutes past. I was tired of getting lectured by my boss on how we needed to enforce these rules. For some reason, he had a mindset that I was letting them stay and being nice. No, the first time I was nice, but I wasn't letting them stay, and I can't physically force these people out. The third day, they were finishing the unloading. While on site, I saw them and went up to them and just gave them a pass-by reminder that they needed to wrap up before 8. Later that night, I check, and yep, they are still there. I'm getting a bit peeved at this point, so I check the facility quickly, then I decide to drive out. The front gate has a code lock that denies codes after 8:10. Yeah, there was even a grace period. Since they had me let them out every time, they didn't know their code wouldn't work. At least since they didn't seem to know the rules, they definitely didn't read that in bold highlighted in our contract. So, as per my boss's order, I left the gate locked and left. I lived close, so I went home. Got a snack, watched a couple shows, then about 9:40 went back to the facility to find them stuck at the gate. They were not happy, but as I let them out, I said to them, "The facility closes at 8 sharp, and this gate locks. We aren't always around to let you out. That's why we post the close times everywhere." A lie since I checked it every day, but I didn't want them to think they could get away with it anymore. They just angrily left, but I didn't have a problem with them again. I do feel bad for that older lady, but I don't know, they just weren't listening. People who refuse to leave when you're trying to close are the worst.
Oh, they did nothing wrong. He should have just been a little more considerate and gave them a little bit more time.
Coffee lady. So I work at McDonald's right now, and man, we get really uptight, entitled people. This particular lady, deemed coffee lady by my coworkers and managers, is the epitome of entitled. She comes in, without fail, every single day, sometimes twice or 3 times a day, but always orders coffee. Now, this wouldn't be an issue if she wasn't so picky about it and so nasty and rude to new people who don't know her order by now. When I first started working there, because she didn't recognize me, after watching me make her coffee just the way she likes it, She had me redo it 5 times because it didn't taste right, and she got all snotty with me. She's nice only to the people who make it right, which is total BS. For those wondering, her coffee order has to be from a fresh pot. She doesn't mind waiting for one to brew, but even if you claim it's from a fresh pot that just finished, she won't believe you and will demand you brew another pot. She used to get a large fresh coffee with 3 creams, 24 sugars, 24. Thank God she only gets a medium fresh with 2 creams, 20 sugars now, but dang. Recently, we've started to mess with her because she's been coming into our restaurant, talking to other customers, saying how nasty our restaurant is, how we're putting customers at risk of getting sick by putting the cream and sugar in the coffee and not putting a lid on the cup while we wait for the coffee to brew. Madness, right? She's a nasty gossip, but oh so gullible. We hired this new girl about a month or 2 ago, but she hasn't been on front counter much, so she's never had to make this woman's coffee before. Cue today where the lady comes in and the new girl makes the coffee, fresh pot and everything. We have a machine that gives exact sugars and creams, so there's no way she could mess it up. And the lady says it clearly isn't fresh and tastes wrong. She makes a new pot of coffee, makes the coffee again, somehow still wrong. This lady starts being a nasty jerk to the poor girl and tries to tell her how to do her job. I would have intervened, but I was busy taking orders on headset for drive-thru and couldn't leave my station. Finally, one of my coworkers steps in, love her, and she tells this lady she will remake her coffee. Now, mind you, this lady recognizes my coworker because my coworker has been working there for years. Little does this lady know, my coworker is a savage, and I love her for it. She goes back to the first pot of coffee, the one used for the first cup of coffee that the new girl used, and uses that to make the lady's coffee. And when she gave it to her, the coffee lady tasted it and said it tasted perfect, and started telling the new girl, "This is how you make coffee," and praising my coworker for actually knowing how to do her job. Meanwhile, she doesn't even realize she's playing herself because it tastes the same as the first cup she was given. I hate entitled customers, and even though it's not getting in their faces and calling them out on their BS, it's the small things in life that bring us joy. So Karen, what did you think of today's stories?
They were horrible.
Horrible? How dare you? These were some of the best we've ever read.
Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. It's ridiculous what people like myself have to go through. Dealing with stupid people like yourself and your subscribers.
Look, Karen, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you talk about my re-army.
Re-army. Most of your viewers aren't even subscribed to your channel. 70% if I'm correct.
Well, I can't argue with that. That's true. Most of my viewers don't actually subscribe for some reason.
It's because you're stupid, Mr. Reddit.
No, I'm not. Alright guys, let's prove Karen wrong by making sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications.
They're not going to listen to you.
And if you'd like me, or Karen,
what?
To record a special message for you, come visit me on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.
Never.
And join as a channel member today, and Karen will give you a special shout out in the next video.
Like heck I will.